Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Naruto Was Trained by Minato and Kurama Part 2. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
The following day Naruto heard the Hokage and his dog Masked Anbu speaking as he woke up on the couch in the Hokage's office. Jiraiya's building's first like you suggested and quickly found one. It is 3 rooms. Bedroom, kitchen, living room, and bathroom. It is reasonably priced and in good condition. Good, replied the Hokage. You will take us there when Naruto wakes up. I take that back, he is waking up as we speak. Good morning Naruto. Good morning Gigi. So Naruto, do you remember how I said we would find you an apartment to live in? Naruto grinned. Of course I do Gigi. Getting up from his chair, the old man said, well, would you like to see it? Really Gigi? The Hokage turned to face the Anbu and said, lead the way, Inu. Let's go, Naruto. With the dog Masked Anbu leading the way, they left the Hokage tower and walked in silence for a few minutes before the elderly man broke it. Naruto, do you see that building over there? He asked, gesturing to an oddly shaped structure that had the kanji for fire on the front and 4 curving columns rising from the roof. Naruto followed the old man's direction of sight. Yes, tell me about it. That is the academy, the place I told you I would enroll you so you can learn to become a shinobi. So that is where I will learn what I need to know to become a shinobi, thanks for telling me Gigi. They strolled down the street for a few minutes before someone said, look here, Naruto, you are lucky. Ichiraku ramen is right on the way from your apartment to the academy. Yada, I can now have ramen every day, exclaimed Naruto. In any case, Inu, how close are we to the apartment? As the Hokage saw Naruto happy, he inquired. We are just a few blocks away. I found a place relatively close to the academy so he wouldn't have to go too far to get there considering he will be starting next year, Inu stated. Very good. I guess Naruto just got lucky enough for it to be close to Ichiraku too. They arrived at a slightly dilapidated apartment building a few blocks down the street, where Inu let them in and showed them to the manager's office. He knocked on the door, stepped back, and waited for it to open. Hokage-sama, Inu-san. How can I help you? A rather unremarkable man with black eyes and brown hair who seemed to be in his mid-30s emerged from the room and turned to face the 3. Kenji-san. Could you please show us the empty apartment you showed me earlier? Inu moved forward once more. Kenji said, glancing non-judgmentally at Naruto, my pleasure, right this way. So, Kenji-san, how are things going for you? The elderly Hokage asked Kenji. I haven't seen you in a few years, as if they were catching up with an old friend. Very good, I am doing quite well since I retired. I liked being a chunin but I like this as well, Kenji responded as they began to follow him. The Hokage said, I'm happy to hear that Kenji-san, as they made their way down a hallway and up 2 flights of stairs before coming to a stop at the 3rd door on the right. As he opened the door, Kenji said, this is apartment 355. Go on in Naruto, tell me what you think. Naruto went in, taking off his shoes before passing through a 10-foot white-walled entryway. He emerged in a room with a small kitchen including refrigerator and a small pantry to the left and a couple comfortable chairs facing a small TV along with a small square table for eating on the right. Walking past the table he entered another passage, this one with 2 doors. Entering the door on the left side he found a modest bathroom with a sink and mirror combination, a toilet, and a bath with a shower. Leaving the bathroom and closing the door he walked down to the end of the passage and opened the door. Walking into the last room he found it to be a bedroom with a low bed right under the window on the right wall, a dresser on the left and a small closet on the far side. Thank you Gigi, thank you, Naruto exclaimed as he ran back to where the Hokage was standing and wrapped his arms around him. This location is incredible. Naruto's antics made Hiruzen laugh, and she was happy that the boy was content. Kenji-san, we will take this apartment, I will be back later to arrange rent. He then accepted Kenji's key and gave it to Naruto. Now let's go get you all of the stuff you will need to live here, he said before turning back to Kenji. The 3 of them left Naruto's new apartment and went to a nearby store where they picked up groceries, shampoo, soap, toothbrushes, and toothpaste. They then returned to the apartment to drop everything off and store the groceries in the pantry and refrigerator. Returning to the store, they went to the department store where they bought everything needed to furnish a house. In the bath department, Naruto selected some red towels, his mother's hair, and purple washcloths, Gamakichi's markings. In the bed department, he selected a pillow, white sheets, and a navy blue comforter for his bed. In the cleaning department, the Hokage selected the cleaning supplies he would require. "All right, Naruto, what more would you like?" As they made their way to pay for everything they had chosen, the Hokage inquired. "I don't know, but what about some new clothes and shoes?" As he lifted his shoes to reveal that the soles had barely worn at all, Naruto asked. "That's a great idea, my boy. Let's settle the bill so we can get you some clothes. Please go get him some shinobi sandals that fit him. They are stronger and should last longer. Just make sure to get him a size or two larger than what he normally wears. They are designed to be tight enough for him to strap on. When you're finished, bring them to Naruto's apartment." The man with the dog mask said, "Yes, sir," and turned to leave. Following their purchase, the Hokage pulled out a scroll and filled it with chakra. All of the bags vanished in a cloud of smoke, leaving only the scroll. Naruto's eyes widened to the size of saucers. "Gigi, is that a scroll for storage? Although I had heard of them, that was really amazing. I wonder if I could figure out how to do that." "This is a storage scroll, yes Naruto. After you start at the academy, I'm sure you could figure out how to use them. All you need to do is be able to use your chakra." "What should I do once I understand how to use chakra?" Naruto inquired, practically trembling with anticipation. "After you can use chakra, you hold the storage scroll really close to what you want to seal and channel chakra to the seal while concentrating on the item or items you want to seal," the Hokage said, his expression relaxing as he considered what to say. "Once you've reached that point, simply say, 'Fuin, seal,' and, in order to release the material once more, channel chakra and say, 'Fuin Kai, seal release.' All you need to do, if you become very skilled at using storage scrolls, is think, 'Fuin' or 'Fuin Kai' while channeling chakra." Naruto nearly vibrated again. "That is awesome. There is so much you could do with those scrolls." The elderly Hokage gave Naruto the scroll containing all of his new belongings and said, gravely, "Yes, there is. Storage scrolls are one of the most useful tools a shinobi can have. You can hold on to this, okay Naruto?" "Okay Gigi." The Hokage trailed Naruto as they left the store, saying, "Let's go get you some clothes then." After a while, they went to a clothes store where Naruto purchased some toad boxers, some white and gray t-shirts, and knee-length shorts in navy blue, black, and dark red. Upon returning to Naruto's apartment, they were met by the dog masked Anbu, who said, "Good job Inu. Let's go in and Naruto can try on the sandals." Naruto then changed into his new clothes, putting on a white t-shirt with a blue spiral on the back and a navy pair of shorts. He then went back outside and sat on one of the cozy living room chairs, with Hiruzen perched on the other. "Now Naruto, just slip your feet in the sandals and tighten the straps until they fit comfortably but don't shift on your feet." After following instructions, Naruto discovered that the shinobi sandals were far more comfortable than his old, worn-out shoes, saying, "Thanks Gigi, these are much better than my old shoes." Well, even if you train like a crazy person, these shoes, which are designed for shinobi, will last far longer than regular shoes. You won't need to buy a new pair of sandals for a while because these ones fit your feet a little bit better. That's why the straps needed to be tightened so much. Naruto ran to the Hokage and gave him another hug, saying, "Thanks Gigi," with a sincere tone. "Naruto, you're welcome. Before I go, there's one more thing we need to discuss. Once every 2 weeks, if you don't waste it, I'll give you an allowance that will be sufficient to last for those 2 weeks plus a little bit more. All you have to do to receive this allowance is visit me at the Hokage Tower. Can you still recall its location?" "Of course, I just go back to Ichiraku Ramen and follow that street until I get almost to the academy, then I turn onto the street at which I can see the tower down." "You're doing great, Naruto," the Hokage praised before giving him an envelope containing his first allowance, which he would continue to receive until he was accepted as an adult. Thus, if you train to become a shinobi, you will remain so until you turn genin. After getting up, Hiruzen turned to leave, but not before giving Naruto a wave and saying, "Thanks Gigi, I will see you in 2 weeks." And with that, Naruto was left alone in his apartment. "See you in 2 weeks, my boy." He began cursing to himself as he thought back over the last few days. All of the books he was studying were still in his room at the orphanage. There was no way he could go back, and he didn't want anyone to know how far ahead he really was. Wait. Couldn't go himself. But Gamakichi. Smearing blood across the summoning seal on the back of his left hand with his biting thumb, he created a plume of smoke that appeared and cleared to reveal Gamakichi standing there. "Hi Naruto. How are things going?" Before glancing around, Gamakichi questioned, "And where are we anyway?" "Hey Kichi. I hope all is well with you. I'm finally free to move away from the orphanage. This is my new apartment." "Happy to respond," Naruto said. "That's fantastic, but tell me how it happened." "Well, I returned to the orphanage after you dispelled, and the cruel matron locked me in my room. I visited my mother after falling asleep, but the matron woke me up with a kick." Gamakichi began to get scared and said, "She kicked you awake? Wait, you said you went to see your mom. What do you mean by that?" "Well, Ka-chan said she was dead, but in my mindscape, a cage bunshin of her was sealed before she passed away. She was dozing off when I began to generate enough chakra to keep her alive. She just woke up and has been educating me on seals. Though he is still asleep and Ka-chan won't tell me about him until he wakes up, my 2-san is sealed there as well." He was quite relieved that Naruto wasn't referring to the Kyuubi as Ka-chan, and exclaimed, "Well damn, doesn't that just make a good story? What transpired next?" "She told me I wasn't welcome to return and threw me out onto the street. Subsequently, I encountered a man who had an unpleasant odor, and he, along with several others, began pursuing me. They had cornered me and were about to injure me when Gigi and the 2 men he called Anbu intervened. Gigi got me this apartment this morning after I spent the night in his office." "Wow, I do enjoy the new location. For what reason did you call me?" "Well, is it possible for you to conjure up a memory of returning to my orphanage room?" "Hoping," Naruto asked. Gamakichi answered, "Given how many times I've been there, yeah, I think so. Could you please go there and retrieve the books I stashed beneath my futon's loose board?" "Yeah, I can do that, but it might take some time. Tomorrow, call me back, and I'll grab them." "Kichi, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm heading out to explore." Mount Mayuboku Gamakichi ran off to find his father as soon as he got home. Finding a 10-story toad wasn't that hard, though it did take some time. He yelled, "Pops pops. Kiki, what's wrong?" When Gamabunta heard his son's voice, he inquired. Gamakichi took a few deep breaths and said, "I've got big news, Pops. Naruto has met his mother." "His mom? Don't tell me the Kyuubi," Gamabunta exclaimed just before his pipe fell out of his mouth, causing the ground to tremble. Gamakichi blurted, "No Pops, it's not the Kyuubi. That's what I initially thought too. Naruto informed me that within his mindscape was a sealed image of her and his father, known as a cage bunshin. They were kept in a state of suspended animation until he began producing enough chakra to keep them alive. He claimed that although his father was still frozen, his mother had recently awoken and she wouldn't tell him anything about him until he did. What an unyielding idiot. Yeah. That's really great. Who better to teach the child than his own parents, who have returned from the dead specifically for him? Ha 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 ha. I got to go, Pops. I promised Naruto I would go get his stuff from his old room so he doesn't draw too much attention with the books he is reading. Go ahead. I don't mind you helping him out. Gamakichi said, "Okay, see you later, Pops," and then he called himself back to Naruto's former room to get his books. The apartment of Naruto locking the door behind him, Naruto left his apartment, resolved to take care of everything else later, and secretly pleased that he had kept the Hokage's storage scroll to study later. Naruto was walking out of his apartment, scanning his surroundings with his eyes to make sure he could find his way back. He was looking for a few places to start training his body, a park with other kids his age, a body of water he could use to learn water walking, and a few stores that were close to his apartment. It was a large pond right outside of a walled compound with a red and white fan-like emblem all over it. A small pier stuck out over the water and someone his age sat at the end. As luck would have it, he found the water first, even though it was too open to use for water walking if he wanted to keep his abilities a secret. When Naruto arrived at the pier, he noticed that the boy had black hair that stuck up at an odd angle in the back and pale skin. Naruto turned to face the boy and grinned. "Hello. May I ask who you are?" "Hello. My name is Uchiha Sasuke," the boy said with a smile. It took him a few moments to respond, shocked by Sasuke's kindness. "Hello. My name is Uzumaki Naruto." Curious about this boy he had never seen before, Sasuke said, "Are you new around here? I've never seen you before." "Yes, I recently moved into an apartment that is a little bit closer to the ninja academy. I was just out exploring when I noticed you here," Naruto replied, taken in by the happy demeanor of the boy. "That's awesome. Do you live with anyone? Who is your father, your mother?" "No, my parents are deceased, and I live alone," Naruto answered in a dejected tone. "When the mean matron kicked me out of the orphanage, Gigi got me the apartment." "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you sad. It's okay. I've got a nice place to live and I get to enter the ninja academy next year, so I'm actually doing a lot better now." "You are so lucky. My parents won't let me enter the academy for 2 more years until I can start catching up to Aniki, elder brother, and make my 2 san proud," Sasuke replied with a look of envy. "Sasuke," was the new voice that rang out just as Naruto was about to speak. Upon hearing the voice, Sasuke became alert and leapt to his feet, addressing the person as Aniki. When Naruto saw Sasuke running toward the other person, he stood up. Despite the distance and the fact that his eyes were channeling chakra, he was able to see the new person immediately. He resembled an older Sasuke with longer hair that fell down his back in a ponytail. He could hear the brothers talking as he approached them. "What are you doing today, Sasuke?" the man inquired. "I was just sitting on the pier, enjoying the day." "I see. With whom are you friends?" As Sasuke turned to face the pier again, he noticed Naruto approaching them. As Naruto approached him, he said, "Let me introduce to my new friend, Uzumaki Naruto. This is my Aniki, Uchiha Itachi." Naruto then moved to stand next to him. Itachi approached Naruto and tangled his hair, which instantly returned to its usual state. Itachi greeted Naruto-kun with a, "Nice to meet you." Naruto recognized the man from the previous night, Weasel, as soon as he heard his voice up close. Itachi interrupted him, realizing that Naruto had identified him. "Are you?" Itachi leaned over Sasuke and gave him a small flick of his forehead with his index finger. "Just a second. Sasuke, Ka-san is looking for you. Don't make her wait," Itachi said. "All right, I'm going," Sasuke said as he turned to run. "I was quite surprised to see you, Naruto-kun, and before you ask, yes, I am the one you met last night." Astonished by the person in front of him, Naruto asked, "How did you know I was going to ask about that?" "When you recognized me, it showed on your face. Before anything else, when you see Anbu in mask, you address them according to their mask, but when you see one without a mask like now, you address them by name." "I'll remember that, thanks." Itachi inquired, "How did you recognize me anyway?" with curiosity. "Your voice and your hairstyle. I noticed your hair was similar, but when I heard your voice up, I figured it out." "I see, that is very impressive for someone your age. Thanks, Itachi-san." "Naruto-kun, you are very welcome. How did you feel about my younger brother, Oto-Oto?" "He seems really nice, much nicer than anyone in the orphanage," Naruto said after giving it some thought. "But I only met him a couple minutes ago." Itachi responded, "I'm happy you think so," before turning serious. "Please, try to be his friend no matter what happens. I worry that he won't be able to please our father and that he will require as many friends as possible." "Sure, Itachi ni-san, I'll do what I can." Itachi stood up to go, saying, "Ni-san. I think I like it. Thanks, Naruto-kun." He got up and resumed his exploration after Itachi left, deciding to find a different location to learn water walking because Konoha is home to several small rivers. "I'm sure I could find one to use and not have to worry about getting discovered if I were to follow the wall." With his mind made up, he resumed walking down the street that had led him to the pond, and a few minutes later found himself at the wall encircling Konoha. Following the wall, he came to a small clearing with a river that flowed through it, briefly widening to create a practice pond. "It's ideal. It has trees, a little clearing for exercise, and water for water walking. It's precisely what I was searching for. Better yet, it doesn't appear like anyone has visited in a while, so I don't need to be concerned about privacy." Satisfied with his new training space, Naruto thought to himself, okay, time to go home, my training starts tomorrow. As he made his way back toward his apartment, Naruto took a different route, wanting to explore more and learn how to locate his training area without having to walk all the way along the wall. He passed a park on his way and decided to check it out the following day, just after lunch, since it was getting close to dinner time and nobody was there. The apartment of Naruto. Upon returning to his apartment, he unlocked the door and proceeded inside to grab a bite to eat, only to discover that he had no idea how to cook. I know I can ask Ka-chan later, but wait, maybe I can meditate to get in too? Nah, I can try that later, I'm hungry now. What to do? Wait, I can have Ichiraku ramen tonight then ask mom to teach me how to cook later. That's what Naruto thought. With his mind made up, he hurried out of his apartment and headed to Ichiraku ramen, which was fortunately nearby. Ramen Ichiraku like usual. The moment he stepped into Ichiraku, he was engulfed in a crushing hug. After a few moments of struggling, he managed to break free from Ayame and resume breathing, much to Tuchi's amusement. So, young one, why are you here today? Usually, you and the Hokage visit once or twice a month. Hello, Tuchi Oji-san. I lived in the orphanage until last night, but I now have an apartment a few blocks from here, Naruto remarked, oblivious to the proprietor of the ramen stall's accusing glance. So what transpired to cause this to occur? Tuchi inquired. The matron kicked me out of the orphanage and Hokage Gigi got me an apartment to live in. Well, in that case your first bowl is on the house in honor of you moving nearby, Tuchi said, waving off a comment that he could see his daughter was about to ask, realizing that Naruto was skipping a lot with his statement but choosing not to ask. Child, what would you like? Would you please give me one miso, one beef, and one of your choices? After a short while, Tuchi emerged from the kitchen and yelled, Ayame, one miso, come get it. This is one bowl of miso ramen, Ayame said, grabbing a steaming bowl and setting it in front of him. The beef ramen will be available shortly, following your completion of that. Thanks Ayame-ne-chan. You're welcome Naruto-kun. Shattering his chopsticks, he said, Atatakamasu, and started eating, still attempting to imitate the Hokage's refined dining manner. Eventually, his empty bowl was cleared out and replaced with a bowl of beef ramen, which arrived shortly after the miso. This time, when Ayame returned, she set down a kind of ramen he had never tried. My favorite kind is one pork ramen. Cheers to your ramen, Naruto-kun. After tasting the new variety of ramen, Naruto declared, I always do, thanks Ayame-ne-chan. This is great. After emerging from the kitchen, Ayame and Tuchi grinned at Naruto's obvious delight. As he stood up, Naruto placed his money on the counter, following the example of the Hokage. Thanks Ayame-ne-chan. Tuchi Oji-san, see you later. See you later, by Naruto, they both uttered. With haste, Naruto left the ramen stand and headed back to his apartment. The apartment of Naruto. After returning to his apartment, he went to his bedroom and folded his new clothes. He then, after a few false starts, opened his sheets and bath products. With everything new all over him, he picked up the towels and washcloths and stored them in the bathroom. He then went back to the kitchen and picked up the soap, shampoo, toothbrush, and toothpaste that he had left behind when he brought the food back and placed them in the bathroom. When he had finally finished organizing the bathroom, he brushed his teeth and went to the bedroom, where he made the bed using his new sheets and quickly fell asleep. Mental space. By the time he actually arrived at his mother's residence in the Mindscape, Naruto had already made up his mind and was moving toward it, planning how he would tell her what had happened during the day. Ka-chan. How are you doing? Ka-chan. Not receiving a response, Naruto started exploring the house, finally finding his mother in the room he originally found her. She was looking at the pillar that was his father. It was almost clear like Kushina's was when he first woke her, but was still cloudy enough that he couldn't make out his father. He ran up to Kushina and hugged her. Hi Ka-chan, I'm back. Naru-chan, I see that. What kind of day did you have? I had a great day because Gigi got me this amazing apartment. It has a living room and kitchen, a bathroom, and a bedroom with a bed, a dresser, and a closet. I adore it. Then Gigi took me to get food and soap and shampoo, along with this dog masked Anbu. After dropping that off at my apartment, Gigi sealed the towels and sheets in a storage scroll, and we went to get them. Gigi totally forgot about the scroll, which was really neat to watch and I got to keep. I believed it might be useful. In a hurry, Naruto concluded. Gigi also took me to get some clothes while he sent Dog-san to grab me some shinobi sandals. He said they would last me longer. Naruto-chan, that's fantastic. Did anything else happen? Curious, Kushina inquired. Yes. When Gigi left, I ventured out on my own. Adjacent to the Uchiha compound, I discovered a small pond with a pier that had red and white fan shapes all over the wall. I made Uchiha Sasuke, a really kind and upbeat boy, my friend. After a short while of conversation, his brother Itachi arrived and informed him that his mother needed him. Yes, Itachi was the weasel Anbu from the previous evening. You got to know Sasuke-chan and Ida-chan, Kushina cried out. Ka-chan, you know them? Well, I know Itachi. His mother was one of my best friends. The last time I saw her, Sasuke had just been born. What else happened? Well, after Itachi ni explained about Anbu, I decided to find someplace where I could practice water walking. I walked along the outer wall until I found a perfect clearing with one of the rivers running through it. The river widened in the clearing, forming a small pond-like area. It didn't look like anyone had been there in a very long time. It is perfect for training and physical exercises. After that, I took a different path home and saw a park along the way. I'm going to go there tomorrow and try to make some more friends. Kushina complimented Naruto and simultaneously urged him to keep trying, saying, "It sounds like you had a really exciting day, Naruto-chan. You did a good job making some more tomorrow." Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Can you teach me how to cook, Ka-chan? Of course I can. I'm actually a very good cook. One thing though, can I have permission to change the mindscape however I need to? Not understanding, Naruto asked, what do you mean? Well, this is your mindscape and you showed the ability to control it by making time pass more slowly. In fact, from now on, whenever you come here, concentrate on making time pass quickly, at least compared to the real world. Since you can manipulate this place, I'm asking for your permission to do so as well. Otherwise I won't be able to show you how to cook since I won't be able to get ingredients. At least that is my theory, as I haven't been able to manipulate the mindscape before. If you want to, you can change this part of my mindscape however you want. I give you my permission if it will help. Alright. Let's go to the kitchen and see if this will work. Until you get good enough at cooking, we will postpone your lessons in sealing and your practice of the Uzumaki sealing method. Just so you know, I still expect you to read the books on sealing and practice the sealing jutsu when you are resting from physical exercises, Kushina said with a glint in her eyes. Okay, Ka-chan. The only reason I didn't do any reading today is because I had to ask Kichi to summon himself back to my old room and grab the books I hid there. Good. Then we are going to split our time between cooking and learning the basics of taijutsu. Now, to the kitchen. As soon as they arrived in the kitchen, they discovered that Kushina could actually control the mindscape because she had Naruto's permission to do so. She began by teaching him the fundamentals of cooking. When they were done, they went outside where Kushina had made some training posts appear. Naruto could then have eggs and bacon if he wanted something different, or just make miso and rice for a simple breakfast. All they were simple logs protruding from the earth, encircled by rope. Before we start, there will be several things that you will have to do again in the real world. One purpose of these training posts is to give you something to hit your knuckles against to build up callus. You will have to do that in the real world. Another is to build the muscles. You will need to put power and speed behind your punches. While you can learn taijutsu and muscle memory here, you can't work your actual muscles. I am going to teach you my style of taijutsu, even if your father's would fit you better than mine. Basically what I will teach you to start with are the basics. How to punch, how to kick, how to dodge or block your opponent's attacks. These are all things that should be taught in the academy, things that are the building blocks, the starting point to more advanced styles. Do you understand? When she had finished speaking. Yes. Okay, let's begin with, for the rest of Naruto's stay in the mindscape, Kushina relentlessly trained him, making him repeatedly punch and kick the posts in order to improve his form and teach him how to make his attacks more potent until he hit the target each time. He willed time to pass more quickly in his mindscape than it did in the physical world, just as Kushina questioned him as he was telling her about his day. Even though it was his first attempt, he was able to spend nearly a third longer than should have been possible, nearly 12 hours, in the mindscape. The following day, upon recalling his pledge to carry on with his reading, he immediately called upon Gamakichi and took his books. He merely said, "Thank you," to Gamakichi after receiving his books, and then Gamakichi dispelled and returned to the summon realm. Naruto made miso and rice as his mother had taught him and headed to his new training area after deciding to get started. After reaching the location, he followed the advice of both the Hokage and a guide to physical development necessary for youthful taijutsu. As the day went on, he increased the number of exercises he did and the speed at which he completed them, including punching and kicking a tree, which hurt more than a training post, but he managed. He practiced the sealing jutsu in between his exercises, and even though his 3 hand seals weren't as good as he would have liked, he was able to clearly see the symbols. He also began instructing himself in the art of water walking. First of all, he recalled the exercise's description from the book. The water walking exercise emphasizes the constant release of chakra, while the tree climbing exercise emphasizes the release of chakra in a pattern of controlled bursts and releases. In order to raise the water's surface tension to the point where it can support one's weight, one must continuously release varying amounts of chakra. Remember that the amount of chakra required to accomplish this will vary based on one's weight and the state of the water. The requirements for the chakra would differ if someone tried to water walk in the same body of water during a storm and then again on a calm day or with weights. Naruto sat down on a rock in the middle of the stream and put one foot in the water, releasing increasing amounts of chakra while focusing on using it to thicken the water, unlike other people who would just jump onto the water and release chakra through their feet. He moved his foot to a different spot so he could get used to the fact that each step would require a different amount of chakra after it would stay on the top of the water no matter how hard he tried to push it down. He started again by switching feet after he reached the point where his foot would stay above the water no matter where he put it down. He attempted to walk once both feet could remain above the water, and although he staggered a few times, he soon grew accustomed to it. Even though he would like to think he had mastered the exercise, he returned to his physical routines and kept going until it was time to stop once he could walk on water without thinking about it. After all, he was still determined to reach the park, and if he persisted much longer, every child would have vanished. After using some of the stream's water to clean his perspiring face, he headed in the direction of the park he had discovered the day before. In the park, as soon as Naruto arrived at the park, he noticed that many of the children were playing, but 2 in particular piqued his curiosity despite their lack of activity. The first was a boy with black hair that spilt wildly out of a ponytail that began just behind the top of his head. His complexion was slightly tan. He appeared to be playing a board game with his friend and observing the few clouds in the sky while donning a grayish-blue t-shirt with a circular symbol on the front. His friend was a slightly pudgy boy whose brown hair spiked up almost like his own. He was always eating from a bag of chips and had spiral marks on his cheeks that might have been birthmarks or tattoos. His shirt was green, long sleeves, light green in the upper third and dark green in the lower third. Naruto approached the area where they were engaged in their game and observed for a short while. Following his victory, he made the decision to speak with them. "What are you playing?" The slender one seems too lazy or lethargic to stand up before speaking. "It is a game called shogi." "How do you play?" "I'll show you, but first, what is your name? It is too troublesome to have to say, 'Hey you,' or 'Hey blonde,' every time we try to talk." Notwithstanding his apparent laziness, Naruto said, "I'm Uzumaki Naruto. What are your names?" and liked him. The skinny boy said, "Nara Shikamaru," not even seeming to want to make the effort to say, "I'm." The boy with the plump body asked, "I'm Akamichi Choji. What's your favorite food?" Choji asked, and Naruto answered, Definitely ramen." That sounds good. I like you." In spite of Choji's obsession with food, Naruto decided he liked him and said, "I'm glad to hear that. Thanks." He then turned back to Shikamaru and continued to explain the game while paying close attention. When he had finished explaining the rules to him, Shikamaru said, "Those are the rules, it is too troublesome to continue." "Cool, would it be too troublesome to play a game with me? If Choji doesn't mind, that is." Choji said, appearing a little relieved, "Go ahead." "Okay. Let's set up the board. Since this is your first time playing, I'll let you go first," Shikamaru said, appearing to be a little serious. Thus, Shikamaru and Naruto engaged in a game of shogi. Naturally, Shikamaru prevailed, but it was quite close. Twice, Shikamaru formed a square with all of his fingers pressed against the corresponding fingers of his other hand. After reaching his second goal, Naruto turned to face Choji and inquired about Shikamaru's whereabouts. Ah, that is his thinking pose. Whenever he is trying to solve a difficult problem, he gets in that pose. It is actually pretty impressive that you made him do it. The fact that he is doing it means that you backed him into a corner with your weird playing style. I've only ever seen him do it when he was playing his father before this. He's never had to against me, that's for sure. Shikamaru then won quite quickly. After declaring checkmate, Shikamaru turned to Naruto and gave him a respectful look. Would like to play again sometime? Choji exclaimed, wow, I never thought I would see that. See what and why not? I just never thought he would actually challenge someone himself. He would usually say, too troublesome, or something like that. After saying, I see, Naruto turned to face Shikamaru once more. Sure, I would love to play again. But where can I find you? Either here around this time or on a hill somewhere watching the clouds, at least for another couple of years. Then things will get troublesome. Shikamaru replied with a smile. What happens in a couple years? Choji stated, we begin at the Ninja Academy, before Shikamaru could remark that it was too troublesome. Cool, I start next year. Maybe we'll still be able to see each other after all. Do you guys have a reason for going? Choji turned back to Naruto after glancing at Shikamaru. I don't really right now. My dad along with a lot of other people in my clan are all shinobi so. Without taking his eyes off the clouds, Shikamaru uttered, I want to be a shinobi that is not too strong or too weak, the rest is just too troublesome. So you want to be mediocre? I guess so. Wow, I didn't know you were suicidal, you never know I guess. Naruto felt Shikamaru's head snap so violently that it appeared to hurt. What do you mean by that? Without realizing it, Naruto uttered the words. Well, Gigi once told me that any shinobi that didn't do their best and keep getting stronger was doomed to die young, altering Shikamaru's life, if only slightly. Gigi? Who is that? Shikamaru inquired, appearing genuinely curious at this point. Hokage Gigi. He said that one time when we went to Ichiraku Ramen. He looked upset so I asked what was wrong. He didn't really tell me but just said, Naruto promised me this. If you ever become a shinobi you will always do your best both to get stronger and hold on to the will of fire. Those that don't are doomed to die young. I didn't understand it all but since you want to be mediocre that means you don't want to try your best, you don't really want to survive. As he left, Shikamaru said, I see. I need to think about this. Thanks for the game and conversation, they were interesting. Wow, I've never seen that before. Usually he would just sit here and watching the clouds until someone came and picked him up. Alright. See you around Shikamaru, Choji, Naruto waved. Reflecting on himself once more, he made the decision to resume his training and returned to his training area. Alongside Shikamaru was so lost in thought on his way back to the Nara clan compound that he failed to hear Choji calling to him. The fact that he was echoing what the Hokage had said in Naruto's words would not leave his mind. When he got home, he went straight to their deck to see his father lying there. Two-san, I've got a question for you. Curious as to what could make his son serious, Nara Shikaku inquired, what is it, Shikamaru? Are mediocre shinobi likely to die young? Snapping his head at his son, Shikaku nearly imitated Shikamaru's previous move. What brought that up? Well, I met this interesting kid earlier today. He made me get serious in a game of shogi even though it was his first time playing. After we played for a while we eventually got to talking why we wanted to be ninja and I said that I wanted to be a shinobi that wasn't too strong or too weak. Then he asked, so you want to be mediocre, and I answered that I guess so. He just looked at me and said, wow, I didn't know you were suicidal, you never know I guess. I asked what he meant and he quoted the Hokage, if you ever become a shinobi you always do your best both to get stronger and hold on to the will of fire. Those that don't are doomed to die young. Shikaku asked, his respect for whoever it was growing quickly. Smart kid, I'll have to thank him later, and yes he is right. A mediocre shinobi has a very good chance to die young. So what is his name? Uzumaki Naruto. He thought to himself, interesting, and you said he almost beat you in a game of shogi? Very interesting. After 2 weeks he had only been in his apartment for 2 weeks, and every time he made breakfast, he would run out of food. He would therefore need to go shopping today. Naruto had a comparatively good 2 weeks. Naruto found the apartment manager to be quite friendly, and he even demonstrated how to operate the washing machine and dryer located in the building's basement. Under his mother's guidance, he had become a much better cook. Practicing for more than 6 hours a day would naturally accomplish that. He was almost ready to reduce the hand seals for the sealing jutsu once more, having mastered water walking. He had completed reading the beginner's sealing level 3 book and played a few more games of shogi with Shikamaru. In fact, he was halfway through the level 4 book. Naruto made the decision to go shopping once his training was over. He therefore walked back after finishing his training session and made a stop at a shopping center to buy groceries. He encountered a small issue when he tried to pay for the groceries. With a smile, the cashier stated, "That will be 320 ryo." Naruto objected, saying, "But it should only add up to 200 ryo." He grinned even more as he said, "Of course, orphan's tax has to be added in." Although there wasn't much Naruto could do about it at the time, he was on edge and thought the cashier was lying. With a bitter sigh, Naruto laid 320 ryo, nearly all of the allowance Gigi had given him when he moved into his apartment. Taking his groceries, he continued to try to figure out what the orphan tax meant. He made dinner, got ready for bed, and fell asleep still thinking about it. Mental space with a question in his head, he approached his mother as soon as he entered the Mindscape. "Ka-chan, what is a orphan's tax?" Kushina inquired. "An orphan's tax, what is that?" "I had to go get groceries and when I went to pay for my stuff it should have cost about 200 ryo but the guy charged me 320 ryo saying the rest was the orphan's tax." Suddenly, there was a chill in the air, indicating that his mother was not happy. "Naru-chan, there is no such thing as an orphan's tax." So he was lying. "I thought so. There just wasn't anything I could do about it, I was out of food." "I understand," Kushina remarked, her rage clearly visible. "I guess No, I think it is time to teach you a jutsu." "Really, I finally get to learn another jutsu. Don't get me wrong, the sealing jutsu is awesome and I can finally use it with 2 hand seals but is the only one I know," Naruto said in response. "Good job with that, you are doing really well. Now, I'm going to teach you the Henge no jutsu, transformation technique, but you have to promise me something." "Sure Ka-chan, what is it? Promise me that you will never hide who you are." "What do you mean? I thought this technique was supposed to turn me into something else." "What I mean is that despite the fact that you will be using it to do what you need to, don't ever let anyone force to use it constantly and hide yourself behind a mask unless you are doing it on purpose. You are a wonderful person, don't ever hide that from the world, force them to see you for you." "I promise Ka-chan, I will stay true to myself, even if I use a mask to fool people." "Good. Now to sew this jutsu, the hand seal sequence is dog, boar, ram. As you mold the chakra in this sequence, picture what you want to transform into. You have to be extremely precise with the details as this is just an illusion that you are using to change what people see and has no substance, so you have to be careful that no one accidentally puts a hand something that is supposed to be there and isn't, like your head. When you first use this technique it will create a puff of smoke to hide the change, but as you become more proficient you will be able to get rid of that if you want. Now try it." Before creating the 3 hand seals, yelling, "Henge no jutsu," and metamorphosing into his mother, Naruto carefully observed his mother. He questioned in Kushina's voice, "How is this?" "Excellent," she exclaimed after observing him for a few minutes. She finished brushing the hair off his face and then rubbed the whiskers, which made him purr. "The only problem I see is the whisker marks. I don't have any." "Are you purring?" "That feels good. Kind of comforting." Not expecting to touch anything, Kushina let her hand drop down Naruto's chest only to discover that she was touching her own chest. She snatched her hand back and, not expecting it to pass through, grabbed hold of her hair in an instant. The hair felt exactly like hers. She said, "Tell me how you feel," and then abruptly and violently pulled Naruto's hair. Ow, that hurts Ka-chan. Why did you do that?" "Naruto, think about what I'm doing. What is this technique?" Finally understanding her meaning, Naruto uttered, "It is an illness, an illusion. Perhaps this is yet another consequence of his chakra combining with the fox's. Exactly, this is an illusion, or at least it is supposed to be. Stop channeling chakra." Naruto considered that for a moment. "I'm not channeling any." Try creating a pulse of chakra then." "How?" collect some chakra like you were going to channel it, then compress it into a smaller space and release it," replied Kushina. "You can also use this technique to disrupt genjutsu if you get caught one and can't activate your eyes for some reason." As he started gathering chakra and compressing it as his mother had instructed, Naruto exclaimed, "Okay, here I go." He knocked Kushina off her feet and transformed back into his normal form as soon as he released the pulse. "Good job, Naruto-chan, but next time less chakra. You could probably dispel a genjutsu covering all of Konoha with a pulse that powerful." "Okay. I'll be more careful from now on." "Well, both of those techniques have a lot of potential," said Kushina. He noticed his mother licking her lips and had excitement in her eyes as he looked up at her. "But we'll worry about that later," Naruto said, looking a little afraid. "Okay. Well, enough of that for now. Try it again, but this time turn into a slightly taller version of yourself with flat brown hair and brown eyes." They returned to their usual routine of cooking and taijutsu practice after working on the Henge no Jutsu until Naruto had mastered it and the chakra pulse required to dispel it, while being small enough for no one to notice. Kushina had one final thing to say before Naruto prepared to call it a night. "Okay, Naruto-chan. Now that you are okay at cooking, you should go and buy a cookbook and try making dishes out of that. You might find some that I can't teach you. Also, it might be a good time to find a way to make people underestimate you. It won't be a big deal for another few months, but keep it in mind." Naruto said, "I will, Mom. Thanks for the advice," before nodding off and returning to reality. The apartment of Naruto. When Naruto realized it was time to go get his allowance, he headed toward the Hokage Tower. He ran past the receptionist as he entered the tower and made his way to the Hokage's office, knocking on the door. The Hokage called out to them from the other side of the door, "Come in." After flinging open the door, Naruto entered. He yelled, "Good morning, Gigi." "Good morning, Naruto. How have the past couple of weeks been?" "They have been great, Gigi. I even made 2 new friends and one that might become a friend later. I only ran into him once." The Hokage, pleased with the news, questioned, "Really, who are they?" "My new friends' names are Nara Shikamaru and Akamichi Choji, and the one that might become a friend is Uchiha Sasuke." Hiruzen remarked, shocked at Naruto's good fortune. "Really, that is impressive. How did you run into them?" Astonished. "Sasuke I ran into after you left when I went exploring. I saw him sitting alone on a pier and talked to him until his Ni-chan came and took him home. They were both really nice. I met Shikamaru and Choji the next day. I played a game of shogi with Shikamaru after he taught me how. I lost, but I made him take his serious pose a couple of times, at least that is what Choji said." "Well, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself," he grinned. Subsequently, he rummaged through his desk and produced an envelope for Naruto. "Here is your allowance, don't waste it, my boy." Before departing, Naruto said, "Thanks, Gigi. The boy has some incredible luck," the professor thought, making friends with the son of another clan head as well as the heirs of 2 powerful clans. Well, isn't that interesting? In the park, when Naruto got his allowance, he went and got a nice cookbook. Despite being under Henge, he succeeded. After that, he left it at his apartment and made the unusual decision to visit the park early. He saw 2 girls being picked on by 4 boys who were a year or 2 older than him when he got to the park. He became enraged at what he saw and punched the person who appeared to be the leader, instinctively channeling chakra through his limbs. He was knocked out with a single blow, and the other boys fled as quickly as they could. Realizing that their leader had fallen so easily, he was the biggest after all. Naruto asked the girls, "Are you 2 okay?" and extended a hand for them to take. One had shoulder-length pink hair that accentuated her slightly larger than average forehead. She had on knee-length navy blue shorts and a grayish-blue kimono top with navy blue trimming. The other one had blue-black hair that fell just past her ears, and on each side of her face, there was a longer bang that extended to her chin. She had no pupils in her eyes and was dressed in a traditional ankle-length pale lavender kimono, unlike the girl with pink hair. When Naruto looked at the girl with the pink hair, she said, "Yes, thanks for the help. I'm Haruno Sakura, who are you?" Full of confidence, Naruto introduced himself as Uzumaki Naruto, though one day I'm going to be one of the best shinobi in the village. He then looked over at the other girl. "How about you?" "And Anyo I'm Hyuga Hinata." She stumbled over her words and gave him a slightly appreciative glance. After their introductions, Naruto questioned, "Why were they picking on you?" Sakura said meekly, "They were making fun of me because of my forehead and Hinata's eyes." "Why, there is nothing wrong with your forehead, and Hinata's eyes show her bloodline and are pretty anyway." "Thank you. TTH thank you. How did you can know about my eyes?" replied Hinata. "I read about them in a book about the history of Konoha." "I see. Do you two have anywhere to go?" "No, my Ka-san should be here in a few minutes, so I have to stay here," Sakura replied. Naruto could tell Hinata didn't really want to go home, even though she said, "I should get home," adding, "But I can't see my guard." Wondering why she stammered so much, Naruto said, "How about I take you home then?" Thank you. I would appreciate it." "Okay. Show me where to, please." Naruto resumed speaking after a few minutes of walking. "I know this may sound harsh, but why do you stutter so much?" Hinata reddened and flushed. Why do you ask?" "No reason really, you just seem like a nice person, so I was just wondering what caused it." After a few minutes, Hinata still hadn't responded, and Naruto had nearly given up trying to respond. "I think my father hates me, and the elders make it worse because I'm bad at my clan's taijutsu, CC clan's style." "Well, I can't help you with your father, but maybe the taijutsu style just doesn't fit you," said Naruto. What are you trying to say?" Hinata inquired carefully, not noticing that her stutter had temporarily vanished. "Well, my taijutsu instructor told me that although she could teach me the fundamentals, her style didn't suit my personality or body type. You may not fit into the taijutsu of your clan either." Recalling his mother's taijutsu teachings, Naruto remarked, "You could always learn a different style or think about what you were good at and adapt it to fit your strengths. My clan would never allow that. Don't tell them, though, because the same person claimed that one of the most crucial aspects of being a shinobi was being deceitful. You have a far better chance of winning, or at the very least, surviving, if your opponent underestimates you or does something unexpected." "I see. Thank you for your help. This is my home," she uttered as they approached a gate leading to a walled area. The guards ran toward them as soon as they were visible through the gates, saying, "Hinata-sama, did this brat do anything to hurt you? You brat, get out of here." With a sly smile on his face, Naruto said, "See you around, Hinata-chan," almost expecting that kind of treatment. Naruto left Hinata at home and went to his training area to continue his daily training, only this time his laps around the clearing took him over the small river rather than around it. Mental space. Naruto noticed something was off the moment he entered the Mindscape after ending his day and going to bed. The entire atmosphere seemed different from the previous day. Not knowing what had happened, Naruto ran in the direction of his mother's house. "What's going on? Ka-chan, Ka-chan." As soon as he got there, he yelled. Kushina replied, "Naru-chan, come in the room where you first found me." Observing that Kushina appeared content, he entered the storage room. The words, "Look, Naru-chan, your 2-san is finally awake," greeted him as he entered the room, only to discover that his father was still completely covered in the crystal ice substance, with the exception of his head and right arm. He asked his question while approaching the crystalline pillar and reaching out to touch it, saying, "So this is my father?" He touched the pillar, and it broke outward just as Kushina's had, allowing him to fall to the ground. The man remarked, "That was fun." Kushina chastised him, saying, "I think it is time you introduce yourself. Naru-chan looks like he is about to burst." "I apologize. I'm Namikaze Minato, your father." "Hello, Naruto," he said. "I was the Yondaime Hokage before I died," as he watched Naruto's eyes brighten and his jaw drop. "You're the fourth. Ever since I learned about you, you have inspired me. That's why the letter stated that my father placed the seals on me, and that's what Kichi meant when he said the seals were placed on me by the fourth guy. But why do people despise me if you are my 2-san?" Naruto questioned, his once happy voice becoming a little quieter. "I'm afraid that no one but Sarutobi-sama, Jiraiya-sensei, and possibly Kakashi know," Minato replied with sadness. "However, why not? Have you read about the Great Shinobi War 3 times? Yes, you essentially defeated the Iwa Shinobi to end it, correct?" Naruto inquired. "Yes, and that's the precise issue. They would do anything to kill you if they knew you were my son. You have your mother's last name because of this. It will protect you until you become strong enough to take on my clan name without worrying about your safety. But still, that doesn't explain why people hate me. I'll tell you, I promise, but only if you swear to me that you won't tell anyone until you get confirmation from someone in the real world. Neither your mother nor I will ever teach you anything again if you ever break this vow. Are you following? Yes, Naruto responded, recognizing the gravity of his father's words. I swear, I won't talk about it with anyone outside of our community until I get experience in the real world. All right. The reason I ask is that you would be in even greater danger if the wrong people found out than if you had discovered you were my son. Now, tell me about the day you were born, Minato inquired, pleased with his son's resolve. 5 years ago on October 10th, the Kyuubi suddenly materialized outside of Konoha and began to attack. Naruto recited, you killed it with a jutsu that cost your life. That is incorrect as well as correct. I did kill it. No mortal can kill a tailed beast, but I did manage to defeat it at the cost of my life. Rather, I called upon the Shinigami and condemned both my soul and the Kyuubi's yin, dark, half to a lifelong duel within his belly. Minato paused to make sure Naruto understood. The other half is still alive, but it is also sealed. Isn't it sealed inside of me? Naruto inquired. Well, how did you find out? Your letter said that I have several seals on me but never said how many, and I've heard some of the villagers call me a demon and the sewer. What do you mean by the sewer? Minato questioned, perplexed. There are 2 paths I can take once I enter the Mindscape. The second one goes into a sewer, and the first one leads here. I never went there because I always thought it was scary, Naruto remarked. Well, that was a really smart deduction. I'm impressed. Indeed, the Kyuubi is sealed inside of you. If you descended that sewer, you could probably find it. Never forget this. You are you, and the Kyuubi is the Kyuubi. You are 2 entirely distinct entities. Don't ever question that. Okay. Making sure to keep his eyes fixed on Naruto, Minato spoke up with great force. Naruto hugged his father and said, I'm glad you're here now. I won't, Too-san. After 6 months, Naruto and Minato had started to get very close after spending the whole first night of their meeting in the Mindscape just getting to know one another. They merely spent some time getting to know one another at first, but soon their talk shifted to Naruto's life. When he learned about Naruto's treatment, Minato just seemed to go still and sad. However, when he saw the new friends he had made, Minato seemed to cheer up again. He was happy to hear about Naruto's friendship with Gamakichi and how close he was to the old Hokage. When they finally arrived at Naruto's desired course of action, Minato was left feeling somewhat taken aback. Minato questioned, so Naruto, what do you want to do with your life? I want to become the greatest shinobi this village has ever seen. I will surpass even you Too-san. And maybe one day I will even earn enough respect to become Hokage. Ha 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 ha. Minato chuckled a little. I hope that day comes soon. I bet the old monkey hopes it does even more. So, since you are going to become a shinobi, have you started training? Yeah, I've been reading the books on sealing that you left me in the storage seal, and I'm already mostly finished with beginner's level 5. I have been doing physical exercises in the real world like the book with the weird title said while learning the basics of taijutsu here with Ka-chan, though she says her style doesn't fit me that well. I can do the leaf exercise, the tree climbing exercise, the water walking exercise, and I have started to do an exercise where instead of holding the lead on my forehead I make it hover about 3 centimeters above my forehead. I usually do that while I am tree climbing or recently water walking. It is really hard, but I can now water walk without even thinking about it. I'm going to start the kunai balancing exercise soon, but with some pointed rocks instead of kunai. Naruto continued. To say that Minato was taken aback would be an epic understatement. His son was demonstrating skills that most genin with over a year of experience outside the academy found difficult to master, and to think that he was nearly done with the Fuinjutsu for beginners books. Well, that's insane, but in a good way. To believe that Kushina was the only one teaching him, and that too was limited to the Mindscape. I can do the henge, but mom said I can't really do it because whenever I try I actually transform. I don't use the illusion that it is supposed to be. I can use the jutsu that is the base of the Uzumaki sealing method with only 2 seals, but within a couple of weeks I will probably start learning how to do it with just the final hand seal. When I got my own apartment, mom started teaching me how to cook, so she stopped teaching me more about sealing until I am good enough to cook different stuff on my own, but we have come a long way in that Probably because I can make it so I can spend longer here than passes in the real world. Oh yeah, before I forget, I give you permission to manipulate this portion of my mindscape. I had to give Ka-chan permission when she started teaching me how to cook. That is all I can think of. Okay, that's impressive, but how did you gain access to your chakra? It seems like you've been using it longer than you've known your mother. In any case, how long ago did you meet your mother? Minato questioned, her expression still full of shock. I've been using chakra for longer than the 7 or 8 months that I've known Ka-chan. I was shown by Gamakichi how to access it, and after reading the Basics of Chakra book, I simply began to practice the exercises. In just 8 months, incredible Minato has more than doubled his chakra reserves. Double the amount needed to sustain a cage bunshin continuously, he thought to himself. What other exercisers do you know? The kunai balancing exercise is the last one I know. It was at the very end of the book, Naruto said swiftly. I placed a book titled, Advanced Chakra Theory, in the shinobi supplies, correct? I believe so, but Kichi needs to be asked to fetch it from Mount Mayuboku. I was still in the orphanage when I received those supplies, and they would have taken them away if they had discovered them. Good, then get that book and read it, and maybe the books on shinobi politics too, said Minato. That way you can continue to do the more advanced exercises. You will need them. It's okay, but why will I require them? You are aware that you are using your chakra to power both yourself and your Ka-chan, right? Yeah. Cage bunshin is a Junin level technique, and that's who we are. This is due to the fact that making them requires a lot of chakra. Your immense chakra is solely a result of the Kyuubi being sealed inside of you. However, since you are beginning to train seriously, your chakra will likely continue to grow even faster than it has already, as you already have enough chakra to support cage bunshin. Which chakra control theory did you read about in the Basics of Chakra? The greater the chakra one possesses, the worse control, but the less chakra the better one's control, said Naruto. Very good, you are in much better shape than you would be otherwise because you started so young and already have very good chakra control. When you become a genin, you would have so much more chakra control if you had waited until the better exercises are typically taught. It would take an absurd amount of work to even get your control acceptable. You could almost learn medical procedures as you are right now, which call for almost perfect chakra control. Now, your chakra would rapidly grow to the point where your control is poor if you simply stopped honing it where you are. You can maintain and possibly even enhance your control at this level if you continue to practice and perform the more difficult control exercises. I will admit that in order to continue getting better as your chakra expands, you will probably need to combine some of the more difficult exercises, but you have already begun to do that. Minato exclaimed, if you keep doing this, I'll teach you how to make cage bunshin after you finish your first year at the academy. You can use those to help you maintain and improve your control. How might cage bunshin accomplish that? You are aware that cage bunshin uses chakra to create an exact replica of you. The method needs to create an identical copy of the mind in order for them to work. Thus, a portion of the chakra used to create the cage bunshin is returned to the creator along with all of the special memories it created when it dissipates. This means that if you create a cage bunshin and use it to practice chakra control, you will receive that experience back when it dispels, effectively letting you practice chakra control while you engage in other activities. Unfortunately, the technique does have limitations. A cage bunshin will dissipate after taking a single hit, and most people would be overwhelmed by the influx of memories. Most people are unable to use them for training due to this and their high chakra cost, but since you will have so much chakra, you will be able to learn at a rate that is unattainable for others, which is likely the only thing that will keep you in control. Please keep in mind that once I teach you how to use this technique, you should never dispel all of your clones at once because doing so could damage your brain. Okay, To-san, I will keep that in mind. After I return to the real world, I'll call upon Gamakichi to fetch me that book, Naruto declared, eager to see his old friend once more. Well, when you get older, I'll teach you a few of my jutsu, and after you get good at the exercises in Advanced Chakra Theory, I'll teach you a few special exercises as well. You must master the exercises I teach you in order to learn any of the jutsus. The other jutsu will have to wait until you learn cage bunshin since we need to prepare your body for it, which requires you to apply a very sophisticated seal on yourself. To be honest, You probably won't have mastered this seal by then, but when the time comes, I'll make sure you have the seal completely committed to memory. However, you won't be able to place it using the Uzumaki sealing method. Instead, you will need to inspect it to make sure everything is in working order before turning it on. 2-san. What are the jutsu and how does the seal work? The air is made to resist your movements by the seal, which is also known as a resistance seal. The air's attempt to stop you increases with each level of the seal. You need to be able to move comfortably with the seal at least at level 10, but the higher the better, in order to use the jutsu this prepares you for. In addition to preparing you for the jutsu, it will significantly accelerate your movement. Minato's expression abruptly became extremely serious, like my warning about the cage bunshin. I will tell you this now and again when it is time to start using it. Avoid trying to skip levels on this seal as you will only endanger yourself. Instead, turn the seal off on the days that you train. You switch it off so you can become accustomed to moving without the additional resistance in everyday situations. This seal is meant to prepare you for my Hiraishin no Jutsu, also known as the Flying Thunder God technique. Even though I was never able to finish it, the chakra control exercises are meant to prepare you for learning my Rasengan, spiraling sphere, technique, which can do a tremendous amount of damage without the need for hand seals. Wow, 2-san. You will actually teach me those jutsu? Naruto exclaimed, thrilled. I will, of course, but you must never brag about them. Can you comprehend what I'm saying? With a serious expression on his face, Minato spoke. You know how Ka-chan mentioned that one of a shinobi's most important weapons is deception? Yes, you should know how to suppress your chakra signature as well, Minato remarked thoughtfully, but she soon brought herself back to the present. You'll meet my former teacher, Jiraiya, eventually. After I teach you the Rasengan, I'd advise you not to use it until after you meet him. Not at all. Confused, Naruto inquired. Aside from being Konoha's spymaster and your godfather, he is most likely the only person who could and would teach you the method. This will enable you to demonstrate how you are familiar with the technique. But that's in the future. Would you like to study taijutsu in my style? It will most likely fit you quite nicely. My style is focused on lightning-fast hits and pinpoint accuracy, in contrast to your mother's, which is centered on powerful strikes, blocking, and counter-attacking. My strategy is much more about avoiding enemy attacks than it is about blocking them. I usually get past my opponent's guard, score important points, and leave before they even realize I was there. What then do you say? Are you ready to get started? Naruto calmed down and said, Yada, let's go. 2-san, can I learn both styles? Minato leaned over and ruffled Naruto's hair, saying, I guess so, but it will be a lot of work. That's okay, I'll do the work. Once he had finished reading the first 2 volumes of that series and began actually going over the books with his parents, Naruto had summoned Gamakichi and asked him to bring him the book on advanced chakra theory and shinobi politics. In fact, he had to have him bring the intermediate Fuinjutsu books too. Although he only had a cursory understanding of the beginning Fuinjutsu series, his comprehension of an ability to dissect the seals and techniques they described had improved to the point where he could now make his own storage scrolls or even explosive tags if he so desired. The sealing jutsu he had mastered with one-hand seal was almost complete, and he was almost finished with the seal-less version as well. When he used it without seals, it was still a little blurry but readable. It appeared to be his first attempt to use the jutsu with all 4 hand seals again, so it would probably only take a few weeks to finish mastering it. After that, the real fun would begin as he would try using it through his feet. If he succeeded in turning tree limbs into explosive tags while tree hopping, or perhaps a stone into a grenade when he kicked it, that would be worth it even if he needed to use the entire set of hand seals to accomplish it. Of course, even if that happened, he could always work his way down and it probably wouldn't take nearly as long to master. Since meeting his father, Naruto had been working on his version of kunai balancing with rocks due to lack of kunai. While that had taken several months to get down, he could make a rock and probably a kunai balance on his fingertip. He could even make it hover a few centimeters above his finger, or if he used way too much chakra, make it shoot away from him. He was now trying to get it to work on multiple fingers at the same time. Whenever he could balance it and make it hover without thinking about it, he would add a rock to another finger. He had gotten to the point where he could do it on all of the fingers of his right hand and 2 fingers of his left. He was working on the third. When he could do it on all fingers simultaneously, he would try to make them spin at the same time, both on his fingertip and hovering. He probably would already have moved on, but the next exercise was a combination of water walking and tree climbing called waterfall climbing, and he didn't know where to find a waterfall. He had been going to the park almost daily. He was still playing shogi against Shikamaru, and though he was getting closer to beating him, Shikamaru still hadn't lost a single match. One day after he had saved up his money for a while, he and Choji had a ramen eating contest at Ichiraku Ramen. While he and Choji had tied at 9 bowls apiece, Naruto could tell the person that was happiest about the contest was Tsuchiyoji-san. When they left, he had a grin that Naruto could have sworn connected his ears, even though that wasn't possible. After that day, Choji would occasionally share his chips. He had run into Sakura a couple of times and they had fun together before he had to leave. It helped that he would never tease of her. A couple of times he had even run into Hinata, and even though she still seemed a bit shy and depressed, Naruto could see a glint of determination in her eyes that wasn't there before. She also stuttered less. There were even a couple of times he ran into Sasuke. The pier was apparently where he went after he finished training for the day. Every 2 weeks, Naruto would go see the Hokage to receive his allowance. On a few visits, he had managed to persuade Hiruzen to allow him to observe the old man's duties and learn how all of his paperwork was sorted. After learning this, Naruto assisted in the paperwork sorting a few times, and when Hiruzen saw Naruto doing the paperwork for him, he would give Naruto an enormous smile that seemed to be filled with relief, as if a weight had just been lifted. The training area of Naruto was nearing the end of his training session for the day, exhausted from his recent increase in gravity seal, and frustrated that he was nearly finished with the kunai balancing exercise and had no way to proceed to the next one. If only he could find a waterfall. When I run out of new chakra control exercises to master, perhaps Ka-chan or Tu-san will know of somewhere I can find a waterfall to use for waterfall climbing, Naruto thought. After all, that is what follows the chakra control exercises in the book on advanced chakra theory. Perhaps it is time to discover my elemental affinities. Even though he could cook pretty good food now, he just felt welcome and at ease whenever he had their ramen. It was sometimes not to eat alone. Even now that he had made some more friends, he sometimes felt really lonely. On his way home, he decided to treat himself to an Ichiraku ramen instead of making his own dinner. He heard people talking about him on the way to Ichiraku's. At least, he thought it was about him because he heard the word demon. Choosing to tune in, he sent chakra to his ears. Is it really true? The demon brat was given his own apartment by Sandame-sama. One voice said, I wonder how the demon managed that. Who can say? However, perhaps this year we can take some action, a second voice said. What are you trying to say? Questioned the first. The second laughed a little sinisterly. Maybe we could turn that apartment into something closer to what he deserves. He. Naruto entered Ichiraku Ramen so distracted that he barely noticed when Ayame hugged him. Instead, he just quickly ate his ramen and left without feeling the comfort he had hoped for. At that point, he decided to stop listening and instead consider what he could do to protect his home. Choosing that he now had a couple of questions for his parents, he hastily made his bed and fell asleep. Mental space approximately halfway to his parents' house, he ran into his father. Little man, what's wrong? When Minato saw Naruto's expression, she inquired. I need your help, as well as Ka-san's, Naruto blurted, nearly pulling Minato in the direction of the house. Naruto says that he has a couple of problems he needs help with. Kushi-chan, Minato said as she saw them approaching. They entered the house with Naruto still dragging his father until they found Kushina. How come, Naru-chan? Kushina inquired. I have a few issues, as Tu-san mentioned. I'll start with the easier one first, Naruto remarked. I'm almost finished with the exercise where you balance on a kunai. I want to move on to the exercise where you climb a waterfall, but I don't know where to find one. I understand that you could create a waterfall, but doing so would interfere with other tasks in this area. Maybe you could ask that old monkey where you can find one. Just don't let him know why you want to know, Kushina said thoughtfully. I think you already have enough on your plate studying sealing and practicing both your Tu-san's and my own taijutsu styles. All right, thanks. My inquiry, or rather, my second problem, is how to determine my innate tendencies. Minato responded this time, saying, that is simple. You are aware that there was a box containing slips of paper in the shinobi supplies that you were able to open. Oh yeah, I use one of those as a bookmark, Naruto remarked thoughtfully, failing to notice that his parents were on the verge of collapsing. Take that piece of paper and gently direct some chakra energy into it. You share my affinity for the wind if it gets cut, your mother's affinity for the water if it gets wet, my affinity for the lightning if it crinkles, my affinity for the earth if it crumbles, and my affinity for the fire if it catches fire. So Ka-chan has a water affinity and you have a wind affinity? Kushina joked, yep, but we both have minor affinities for lightning too. Well, the last issue is the most serious one. I overheard others discussing how they were going to take action because I live in an apartment. Perhaps we could make that apartment more like what he deserves, one person suggested. I really like my apartment and I don't want anything to happen to it. Do you know of any ways I could keep it safe? Naruto inquired desperately. After a minute of contemplation from both of them, Kushina said, how about a stasis seal? Minato retorted, that might work to keep them safe outside and prevent them from breaking the windows or door, but it won't do any good if they get in. How about some security seals that recognize chakras as well? What are security seals and stasis seals? With curiosity about the seals they were discussing, Naruto inquired. Well, Naru-chan, stasis seals essentially put whatever they are applied to in stasis, and nothing can be changed or damaged by them unless the person who applied them deactivates them. For example, if you were to take a picture and apply a stasis seal to it, you wouldn't be able to tear it, smear it, or even burn it. Security seals can serve two purposes if applied to doors and windows, making it impossible for someone to destroy them, Kushina lectured. It serves as a locking mechanism first, and you can program it to only allow specific individuals inside thanks to the chakra recognition feature. The second is that you would know if someone attempted to open it without turning off the security seal. That is flawless. In order to make it unchangeable without turning off the stasis seal, I first applied the security seal to the windows and door before applying the stasis seal. That way, nobody could enter my apartment or commit a break-in. How then do I prepare them? They are both fairly advanced, and much like the resistance seal I told you about, it is too advanced for you to understand yet. If you want to use them, you will have to memorize them, which will be difficult. That is the problem, my boy, Minato said. Kushina interrupted, actually, this would be a good test. We will have you memorize the seals, and since you are using them to things that aren't too dangerous, you can use the more permanent version of the Uzumaki sealing method to apply them. That way you can apply them to other things if you need to, and if it becomes necessary you can reapply them too. Have you been able to make the words you make with the sealing jutsu transparent yet? Unaware that it was feasible, Naruto exclaimed, you can make them become invisible. Yes, if you decide to have the seals made that way fade from view, you would have to channel more chakra into them to view them. How do I do it? When you make the seal, just concentrate on making it unseen. That is actually one of the easiest parts. Before you worry about that though, you will have to memorize both seals. Only when you can make them perfectly 10 times out of 10 will we allow you to try. Naruto used his Mindscape time, which was now equal to 20 hours, to commit the seals to memory so that he could copy them down flawlessly each and every time over the course of the next 2 weeks. Along with his father, he worked on the security seal, and his mother, the stasis seal. The Uzumaki sealing method was then practiced by Naruto, who had to ensure that it was permanent and that it faded after application. The apartment of Naruto, it was with his parents' approval that he had finally placed the seals. He began by applying the security seals for chakra recognition. He locked the door after leaving his apartment and used the sealing jutsu technique, which involves placing his hand over the doorknob and channeling an additional burst of chakra to make the seal permanent. Seals cover the whole door and then compress onto the doorknob, where they vanish. In the back of his mind, he experienced a slight buzzing sound as he attempted to open the door without using chakra. Until he directed chakra into his key, attempting to unlock the door yielded the same outcome. The door opened, and the buzzing stopped. Naruto exclaimed, "Yada, it worked," and returned to his work. He then sealed the door itself with a stasis seal to prevent breaking the doorknob. Then he entered his room, put the security seal there, and put his hand on the seam where the window's two halves touched. He attempted to open the window, but all that happened was a new, slightly different buzzing sound that ceased when he added chakra. The window's halves then swung out. Then he sealed the window on both sides with the stasis seal and shut it. Then he did the same thing for the window in his bedroom. He sprawled on his bed for a moment, finally certain that his apartment would be safe, and then noticed the book he was reading, Intermediate Fuinjutsu Level 3. The fact that he was nearly finished with it didn't matter. The bookmark was a small piece of chakra paper. He decided to find out his elemental affinity after realizing that all he had left of his current chakra control exercise was to make the kunai, or rocks in his case, spin, and that he had not had a chance to ask Gigi where he could find a waterfall. Rather than marking his spot for the time being, Naruto folded the corner of the page and grabbed the slip of chakra paper. He channeled some chakra into the slip of paper as he walked to the sink, in case it caught fire. It was not at all what he had anticipated. The paper first shred into a large number of tiny pieces, of which half dissolved in water and the remaining half became dust. Wow, wind, water and earth. I was kind of expecting one or two considering Ka-chan and Tu-san have strong wind and water affinities, but where did the earth affinity come from? Naruto thought to himself, maybe the Kyuubi, I'll worry about it later. It's about time that I pick up my allowance anyway, maybe I can ask Gigi about a waterfall. With that, he made up his mind not to visit the Hokage. The office of Hokage. When he reached the Hokage's office, he paused and used chakra to amplify his hearing in order to hear if anyone else was present. He thought the Hokage was alone when he heard only an odd giggling and kicked the door open. The moment the door opened, Naruto saw the elderly Hokage hurriedly reach into the robe sleeve and take out an orange book. Naruto exclaimed, "Hey Gigi, how's it going?" as he began assembling the mask he would need to be taken lightly. The old Hokage replied, "Very good, thank you Naruto. How are you doing, my boy?" "I'm great Gigi, I'm glad to hear that. Did you come to get your allowance?" "That, and I wanted to ask a question." "You just did, but go ahead." Naruto innocently inquired, "Are there any waterfalls around here, Gigi?" "Of course there are, why do you ask?" "Well, I wanted to see one in real life after seeing a picture of one in a book," Naruto said, grinning mischievously and massaging the back of his head with his right hand. Hiruzen said, "I see. Do you know where Training Ground 29 is?" "I think so. Is the waterfall easy to find there?" The old Hokage laughed perversely and said, "I've been told that some people like to use it to bathe in during the afternoon. It's a little bit on the hidden side, so you might have to search a little bit." Naruto replied, "Thanks Gigi, I'll see you in a few weeks," thinking that it would be ideal to go there early so he could practice waterfall climbing. When the academy first started, 6 months later, Naruto had been going there to train in the morning rather than his training area ever since he asked the Hokage where he could find a waterfall. It was far harder than the other chakra control exercises, so he hadn't progressed as far as he would have liked. Similar to the water walking exercise, you had to use your chakra to stick to the water while also using it to raise the surface tension sufficiently for you to be able to stand on it. The water you were sticking to was falling to the ground. There were barely any seconds left for you to tighten the knot, hold on, and launch yourself before the water hit the bottom and carried you away. On other days, he was unable to complete the exercise because girls would come to bathe beneath the waterfall. He would check to see if any of his friends were around lunchtime, and then return to working on his physical exercises in the afternoons, training his body to apply the knowledge he had gained in the Mindscape. In relation to the Mindscape, he was gradually picking up on both of his parents' approaches. To be honest, he had a difficult time using his mother's style exactly as she had instructed. Even though it felt much more natural, the style his father was teaching him seemed to be lacking something. He was about halfway through the 4th book of the Beginner's Fuinjutsu series that he and his parents were going over at the same time. They would alternately teach him. They informed him that although he was picking up the art of Fuinjutsu very rapidly, he found it enjoyable to study and it made sense. He read the books on shinobi politics and the subjects that would be taught in the academy when he studied in the real world, all the while reviewing the Fuinjutsu books in his Mindscape. He'd begun to go through the books that his father had included with his ninja supplies, a curriculum for the academy. He had read every book they would study for the first year by the time the academy started. A few days prior, Naruto had visited the Hokage and requested assistance in obtaining the supplies he would require for the academy. Naruto realized that he couldn't use the Henge no Jutsu because he wouldn't be able to prove his identity and academy enrollment if he did, and that if he didn't get assistance from the Hokage, he would likely be sold dull, unbalanced practice weapons. Together, they proceeded to obtain the necessary supplies for Naruto, and since the Hokage was the one purchasing them, they were even able to get a slightly lower price. Academy. For the next 6 months at least, Naruto sat in the classroom that would be his, waiting for lessons to begin. At last the teacher entered the room and began calling rolls. Until the teacher reached the names, none of the names truly registered, merely because it indicated that his name would appear shortly. Torichi Shiba, here. Naruto heard, Uzumaki Naruto, and looked up to see his teacher Ryukin Akira smiling. This, he said, his heart heaving, is exactly what I need to screw up this year, an instructor who despises me. And shortly after the teacher began yelling at him during the first few words of the chakra introduction, he was shown to be correct. Soon after, he was standing outside the classroom with a large bucket of water in each hand. Naruto thought to himself, well, at least I could get some exercise, and he started performing a set of squats, using the extra weight to make the exercise worthwhile. For the next 6 months, everything went according to the same routine. If Ryukin-sensei thought the lesson would be significant, Naruto would either be found outside the classroom or sent to the headmaster's office for disrupting the class, or for other reasons entirely. After the first week, he made the decision to bring a few leaves to class every day, ensuring that he could complete the leaf-splitting exercise for wind nature training or the leaf-soaking exercise for water nature training when he was sent outside. A few months later, he had barely started skipping at all when he was told to leave the room. After the first half of the school year, he was itching to get out of the class he was forced into, even though he wanted to appear weaker and dumber than he actually was. Then, maybe, he would be able to find a teacher who didn't despise him. It was time for the midterm advancement exam, which he would pass to get out of this situation. Alright, the academy was officially despised by Naruto. Even though he put in a lot of work to pass the advancement, he wasn't providing the correct answers. When the test was over and he received his paper back, he couldn't even identify half of the questions that he had answered incorrectly. At that moment, he became aware that half of the test had been administered using genjutsu to show him different questions. Even though he answered the remaining questions correctly, he still didn't receive nearly enough points to pass. He stormed out of the academy. He headed straight to this training area after leaving his school belongings in his apartment, driven by an intense need to hit something. He knew he had to calm down before taking any further action when he unintentionally directed so much chakra into that punch that it caused the tree he hit to topple over onto the ground. Trying not to lose his temper, Naruto just jumped into the river and floated on the surface. After regaining control, he made the decision to end the day early to avoid causing any more damage. He didn't want to draw attention to his training grounds, after all. When he got home, he made a stop at Ichiraku Ramen because, if ever, comfort food was in order. At last, he read more at home. He wasn't patient enough to finish the school books, so he started the 4th intermediate Fuinjutsu book. He finished the first 2 chapters and headed to bed in anticipation of seeing his parents. Mental space. He had been talking about how he would pass the advancement test in order to get out of the class he was in and into one with a more reasonable teacher, so when he found his parents, they could see the metaphorical clouds hanging over his head. Kushina inquired softly, "Naru-chan, what's wrong?" "That damn instructor. He placed a genjutsu that changed half of the questions into slightly different questions. If he had made any serious changes I would have realized it and checked for genjutsu. But he was smart about it. He only made small changes that would make sense, so I didn't check it. God damn it, I was really looking forward to getting out of this class," Naruto sighed. "So why don't you avenge him?" Kushina asked, her eyes gleaming mischievously. "How would I do that?" Kushina grinned and said, "Well, it is sort of a family tradition. I was quite a prankster when I was your age after all." Minato laughed. With a laugh still intact, Minato continued, "You aren't kidding, you were a terror. Everyone was scared of what you would do next." "That might work," thought Naruto. Kushina teased her husband with a playful, "Yeah," and stuck her tongue out. "That wasn't the only reason I did it anyway. It was great training. I mean seriously, you have to plan a long way ahead, get into places that you are not supposed to be without being noticed. Then if you are noticed you have to get away from them, and if you manage to get Junin or Anbu chasing you, it would test your speed and endurance. And of course there is the benefit that it allows you to get back at people who wrong you. A grin that hinted at evilness surfaced on Naruto's face. I like it. Minato began to tremble. You know, I'm kind of sorry for the old monkey, we have unleashed a monster. The following day, Prankmaster Naruto's reign officially started at that point. One Ryukin Akira's almost indiscernible whimpers served as the bell that rang the start. It all began when he used the restroom. He was about to use the restroom when a tiny seal that was positioned directly beneath the toilet seat began to react only to him. It released extremely strong itching powder before dissipating. It took all of Ryukin Sensei's self-control not to dig his hand into his pants and begin scratching himself when he returned to the classroom. The itching was that intense. Naruto was returning home at the end of the day when he came upon something that ordinarily would have made him shudder. Seated in a box next to a dumpster were sets of bright orange clothes, almost neon in color, that had probably been thrown out by a clothes store because they couldn't sell them. Normally he would have taken off as fast as possible, but on this particular occasion, something clicked. He was aware that he would despise himself for it, but what better way to be underestimated than to stand out like a foolish person that no one could possibly take seriously. Subsequently, another thought occurred to me. What could be more ironic than appearing foolish and failing the advancement exams twice? Both concepts, of course, had advantages. His stealth would have to be amazing if he performed his pranks while wearing those hideous orange monsters. If people grew accustomed to seeing him in them, he would be totally invisible when he removed them and changed into regular clothes. And he would be dismissed from Ryukin Sensei's class if he failed, even by the slimmest of margins. In any case, at least the new instructor will be in the same class as Shikamaru, Choji, Sakura, Hinata, and Sasuke, even if he is a bad one. If he followed through, he might actually be able to enjoy himself a little. The office of Hokage. Abruptly, his off door flew open, letting out a voice we all knew. When Naruto was dressed in his new orange monstrosities, he exclaimed, "Good morning, Gigi." Hiruzen exclaimed, "Good morning. Naruto, what are you wearing?" in disbelief at what his surrogate grandson had on. With a struggle to contain his laughter at the elderly Hokage's expression, Naruto said, "Oh it is just something I found a few weeks ago. Do you like them?" "Yeah, it's special, Naruto. Where did you acquire them?" Naruto looked at himself and said, "Oh I found them in a box right next to a dumpster just after Ryukin Sensei rigged my advancement test. And unique isn't what I would call this. The word monstrosity is the best. It's hard for me to argue against that. Hold on, why are you wearing it if you know that? I've heard that deception is one of a shinobi's most effective weapons. I made the decision that I wanted to be taken advantage of because it would help me survive. There's no better way to be underestimated than to be viewed as a fool who is so obvious that everyone chooses to ignore me, and there's no better way to be viewed as a fool than to fail the advancement exam twice." Naruto remarked nonchalantly, "Not to mention it will probably appease the council and get me in a class with my friends." The professor said to himself, "I see, wait, how did you know about that?" and vowed never to undervalue the boy in front of him ever again. "A book I read about shinobi politics, and considering how some people treat me, it was obvious that at least the civilian council wants to do something about me." "You were correct, even though I would much rather that you didn't have to deal with that. Naruto, do you need anything?" With haste, Naruto replaced his idiot mask. "Oh yeah, Gigi, may I have my allowance?" Hiruzen said, "Okay, Naruto, here you go," as Naruto departed, leaving an extremely agitated elderly man in his office. And so it continued, with him maintaining a bare minimum of a passing grade, just low enough that failing the final would only set him back a year, not send him out of the program, and increasing his training, since he was missing more than half of the classes and could spend a full 24 hours in his Mindscape each time he went there. He continued to play practical jokes on Ryukin Sensei, of course, but he also began going into stores wearing his new orange clothes and unhinged, just to see how the proprietors reacted, recalling those like Higurashi weapons, and making fun of those that didn't accept him. He would be in a class with his friends and his teachers would be Yumino Iruka and his assistant Mizuki after he failed the advancement exam a second time. There would be a 2-month break in between. Mental space. At last, he would discover how to create Kage Bunshin. Even if he didn't pass, he had completed his first year at the academy. He was studying the last book in the beginner's Fuinjutsu series, but it was taking him a lot longer than expected because it contained all of the concepts taught throughout the series, and he had to grasp it completely before his parents would allow him to continue. Not that he cared, because it was, after all, kind of interesting. Additionally, he had begun attempting to teach his mother Genjutsu. Although he didn't particularly enjoy it, he could see that it would become a weakness in the future if he didn't address it. He was about to acquire his first ninjutsu, though he didn't really consider the sealing jutsu to be ninjutsu. He had primarily been studying the theories behind the creation and application of ninjutsu and practicing taijutsu so that when he did start learning ninjutsu, it would be simpler for him to master. He hurried off to find his father as soon as he entered the Mindscape. He tried the house first, and to his luck, as soon as he arrived, Minato was leaving. "Hello to-san," Naruto exclaimed, practically trembling with joy. Minato said, "Hey little man, what has you so riled up? I can finally learn the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. You said you would teach me when I was finished with my first year at the academy. I can finally learn my first jutsu." "That I did. Okay, let's get your mom so she can watch too." When they entered the house, Kushina was lounging on a window seat, enjoying the view of the lake. "Kushi-chan, I'm going to teach Naruto how to make Kage Bunshin. Do you want to come along?" Kushina retorted, "Kage Bunshin already? That is impressive." "Yep, I promised to teach Naruto when he finished his first year at the academy," Minato made the commitment. Kushina exclaimed, "Okay, let's go." "Where to?" "How about we go down to the beach? It is nice and open, perfect for learning this." They left through the front door and followed a well-traveled path to a broad, open beach. "Tell me Naruto, what do you know about the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu?" replied Minato. "You told me that it a technique that makes exact copies of the user. The copies are made of pure chakra unlike the Tsuchi Bunshin or the Mizu Bunshin, and when it creates the copies it also copies the mind. When it dispels some of the chakra it has left is returned to the maker. About 1/10 I think, but that also drags the mind back to the original, and that essentially gives any thoughts and memories that are unique to the Bunshin to the original," Naruto said. "Good, but you forgot that when you make Kage Bunshin all of your chakra is split evenly between all of you, both the original and the clone. This makes it impossible for censors or people who can see chakra to tell the copies from the original unless they try to dispel them. Though there is another similar clone technique that I might teach you later, but not now. There is also the possibility that Kyuubi's chakra might have side effects on this technique." Naruto inquired, "What do you mean by side effects?" "I am aware of a couple of side effects, in fact. I will describe them to you and then explain why they are important to Kage Bunshin. Initially, we believe this to be a side effect, but we're not positive. We think this is a new dojutsu, but we don't know if it will eventually be passed on to your children. As you know, when you channel chakra to your eyes, the pupils become slits. They look pretty cool actually. You can see much more clearly, see chakra, and see through genjutsu." Minato paused to give Naruto time to process this information. "Then, compared to a normal person, your healing rate is hundreds of times higher. One of the things that maximizes the utility of this technique is its healing component. You normally take a little damage upon memory reintegration following clone dispel, which can result in a headache or worse, but since you heal so quickly, you won't have to worry about this as long as you dispel your shadow clones in small groups. The true nature of a Biju's chakra is the final point. Because Biju are massive masses of cohesive chakra with consciousness, they are unkillable. Their chakra is so cohesive that even if it is temporarily dispelled, it will eventually reform. It really depends on how much of that cohesive quality your chakra has taken on. Some of this cohesive chakra mixes with your own, and if you are using a technique where you are creating chakra constructs, you may receive more chakra back than the 1/10 that most people would." "I see, so I don't have to worry about the side effects of the Kage Bunshin technique as much as most people, and I might be able to perform it with less chakra loss than most people also," said Naruto. That sounds like a good thing to me. Yes, it is. Moving on to the jutsu itself. Kage Bunshin demand a special hand seal in which you extend your middle and index fingers while gently curling the remaining fingers inward to create a cross with your outstretched fingers. Like this, Minato paused, creating the proper seal, and Naruto, after closely examining the seal, added, "Very good. Now, I want you to start by channeling about 5 times as much chakra as it takes to use Henge, and if that doesn't work, slowly increase your chakra output until it works." After following instructions, Naruto saw a single copy of himself appear in about 30 seconds. Excellent. I suppose all of your effort in learning jutsu theory paid off. How much chakra was needed to complete the task? Kushina asked in a jovial and animated manner. I believe it was between 7 and 8 times the amount it takes me to use Henge no Jutsu, thought Naruto after giving it some thought. Since I can only feel around half of my chakra, it is difficult to determine. I see. That is truly quite amazing, Minato remarked. At this point, what chakra control exercises have you finished? Well, I thought I had already told you that. I've done tree climbing, water walking, leaf concentration, and a variation where I make the leaf float about 3 centimeters from my head, and I recently completed waterfall climbing after nearly 8 months of trying. I've also combined both of these techniques with kunai balancing, which I can do with all of my fingers while making them float and spin. Eventually, I'm going to attempt incorporating leaf concentration and kunai balancing, Naruto answered. Naruto smiled at the praise. Just don't let it go to your head, but I guess I will teach you the chakra control exercises that I made as well since you are just about ready to apply the resistance seal. Minato was impressed, to put it mildly, and he didn't let it show on his face. I am impressed. Some of those are really difficult, and for someone your age to have mastered them is amazing. Thanks so much, Tu-san. For what purpose are the exercises? Though it was quite some time ago, I recall you mentioning something about the Rasengan. Yes, they will eventually allow you to learn the Rasengan, but I won't teach that to you until you finish the 4th year of the academy. With pleasure, Naruto said. Thanks, Tu-san. Okay, Naruto clone, come with me, was Kushina's command as she led the clone out after deciding it was time for her to take action. Just before the clone dispelled, Kushina reappeared a few minutes later. He blushed with happiness as he suddenly remembered the brief conversation he had with his mother. All right, Naru-chan, I had a quick message for you. I wanted you to know how much I love and admire you. You are putting a lot of effort into your training and are not lazy. I am telling this to clone you, so that you can know what it's like to have memories from a clone. You can also use this to gauge how much chakra you recover after a clone dispels. Naru-chan, feel free to dispel as soon as I walk off this path, Kushina concluded. The clone of Naruto uttered, okay Ka-chan. So, Naru-chan, are you able to recall everything? Kushina inquired. Yep. How much chakra did you then regain? After a moment, Naruto remarked, I got back a bit under half of the chakra from my clone. Well, Kushi-chan, I suppose that validates that theory. Okay, little man, there are 2 more things you need to know about this technique, Minato said. Firstly, Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Mass Shadow Clone Technique, is another variation of it. The only thing that is different is that you add as much chakra as you like, but make sure you retain a healthy amount for yourself, rather than adding enough to activate the technique. You get to choose how many Kage Bunshin you form. The chakra you use in this version will split into Kage Bunshin with equal amounts of chakra. Just be aware that attempting to create more than the chakra can support will cause them to either not form at all or appear lifeless and dead. You should also be aware that Kage Bunshin only needs a single hand seal, so you can apply the same techniques you used for the sealing jutsu to this technique. Wait until you are at least a genin before attempting to do that because it will require far too much chakra for you to do at this time. Naruto paused as a contemplative look crossed his face, then said, I understand Tu-san. Tu-san, Ka-chan, I just realized that I don't really know much about you as a shinobi. What did you specialize in? Well, I am a master of fuinjutsu, but I'm more of a ninjutsu specialist, especially space-time ninjutsu like my Hiraishin no Jutsu. How are you, Ka-chan? Naruto inquired. With a shy smile reminiscent of Naruto's, Kushina began massaging the back of her head with her right hand. I was never very good at ninjutsu, but I am very good at kenjutsu, and like your two-chan, I am a master of fuinjutsu, Kushina said. In addition, I possess a unique kind of chakra that enables me to create chains of chakras that I can use to bind people. I'd like to use chakra chains like you, is that cool? Regretfully, no, Naru-chan. You lack the same kind of unique chakra that I possess, Kushina remarked. After a moment, Naruto's expression brightened once more. Then, could you teach me kenjutsu? I will, of course, Naru-chan, Kushina exclaimed, embracing Naruto tightly. Okay Naruto, since you can now make Kage Bunshin and you know how to make the resistance seal, it is time to test you on it, Minato said once more after Kushina had finally put Naruto back down. You might find yourself totally immobile if you make even one mistake. You must now create 100 flawless copies of the resistance seal in a row before we enter the house. When I think you're ready, I'll apply it to your right shoulder, directly across from the gravity seal. Naruto sighed, this is going to take a long time, Minato had finally decided he was good enough to apply the small but complicated seal to himself after spending several hours copying it onto small seal-grade paper and making 2 mistakes that required him to start over. After meeting all of Minato's requirements, he received one final piece of advice. You will need to continuously channel chakra through your limbs in order to move normally once the seal is activated. You must use less chakra as you become accustomed to a particular degree of resistance. It's time to step up the resistance when you reach a point where you can move without using any chakra. Though I doubt you will ever have to worry about that, there are 100 levels. The number in the center of the seal will tell you what level it is at right now. To raise the level, channel some chakra to the seal until it becomes visible and send a chakra pulse to it. To make it visible, just like when you increase it, channel chakra to turn it off, then release with a simple, kai. Finally, remember to turn off the seal for 1 day per week at the very least, preferably on the day you plan to change. Choosing not to waste any more time in the Mindscape, Naruto visited his mother to receive his first kenjutsu lesson since, after all, she had promised to teach him. The following morning, Naruto got ready for the day and then stood in the middle of his living room, kitchen area, creating a Kage Bunshin. Pointing at a location 3 centimeters below the top of his right shoulder, Naruto instructed his clone, you know what to do. Put the resistance seal right here. Naruto remained motionless for the next 10 minutes as his clone applied the resistance seal. The clone dispelled itself after completing and verifying its work 3 times, bestowing upon Naruto the memories it had amassed during its labors. Naruto channeled chakra to the seal after realizing everything was in order and saw it vanish. Naruto decided it was time to start training and set out, only to discover how much more difficult it was to move. He was unable to move at any close to the speed he was accustomed to, as if he were trying to walk through water. Naruto thought to himself as he began to circulate his chakra, I guess this is what To-san meant when he said I would need to channel chakra through my body to move normally. As he left his apartment, Naruto thought to himself, now what should I do today? He chose to simply meander for a bit. Just as he had the day after receiving his apartment, he passed the Uchiha compound. He saw many Uchiha clansmen running around and acting tense as he looked around. He really didn't feel like being there when he saw them acting so strangely, and before he knew where he was going, he found himself heading toward the Hokage Tower. He made the decision to ask the elderly Hokage why the Uchiha were acting strangely after realizing where he was going. Tower of Hokage. As he kicked open the Hokage's office door, he noticed 3 individuals positioned in front of the elderly man's desk. The first was covered in bandages, his right arm and half of his face obscured. When the second one looked at Naruto, he saw that the man had oval glasses covering his eyes, and he had spiky brown-gray hair and a beard. The man was dressed in a long, tannish white robe. The last individual was a woman wearing a black and white kimono, with wrinkles all over her face, gray hair pulled up in a bun, and red and green beaded earrings. Her eyes didn't seem to open. Without delay, Naruto donned his idiot mask, and proceeded towards the entrance. Hey Gigi, did I come at a bad time? Naruto exclaimed, almost yelling, while holding both of his hands behind his head and wearing a sly smile. The Kami no Shinobi glared at the other 3 people in the room and remarked, "Not at all, my boy. We were just finishing." The woman, her voice a little too high, said, "This isn't over, Hiruzen. We will be back." "Yes, this issue needs to be resolved quickly," the man without bandages remarked. The last person said nothing, simply glaring at Naruto with keen eyes. He saw the man's face right away and was struck by the deceptively kind expression on his face as well as the X-shaped scar on his chin. Not even Naruto was duped. Finally, in a voice that was almost monotonous, he said, "We will be going now, we will see you later." Naruto swiftly injected chakra into his eyes as the 3 separated, turning to face the man wearing bandages. Although he didn't notice anything unusual, it never hurt to check. Glancing back at the Hokage, he noticed an astute expression on the elderly man's countenance. "Come in and close the door, my boy," Naruto said. "Okay, Gigi," as he carried out the elderly man's request. He saw a light blue sheen move along the walls as soon as the door was closed. "Privacy seals, Gigi, what do you need those for?" "Very perceptive, Naruto. I just wanted to make sure that our conversation is private." "I see," Naruto uttered, his foolish mask removed. "Who were those 3 anyway?" "Those were the elders, supposedly my advisors. The bandaged one is Shimura Danzo, the second man was Mikoto Homura, and the lady was Uchiha Kaharu. I will tell you this now, my boy, be very careful of Danzo. Anyway, thank you for interrupting. They were bringing up a very unpleasant subject and would not leave," Hiruzen said with a sad grin. Naruto started to make sense of things and spoke up. "Was that matter about the Uchiha clan?" The Hokage's expression hardened a little. "In fact it was. How did you guess?" "I was actually coming to ask about them. I was just wandering and I happened to go past the Uchiha compound. There were people moving all over the place trying to look like everything was normal, but they were very tense and acting strangely," said Naruto. "There is something going on with the Uchiha clan, but I won't tell you what it is about. You don't need to know. Just do me a favor and stay away from there for a while." "Okay, Gigi, I will. Thank you, my boy, that makes me feel better," the elderly Hokage said, looking relieved. "Do you need anything else?" "Not right now, but would you like to go have ramen with me after the first day of the new semester at the academy?" The elderly man grinned and said, "I would love to, Naruto," before watching his stand-in grandson go. Mental space. He was depressed once more that evening when he discovered his parents. Kushina made the decision to investigate the issue. "Naru-chan, what's wrong? Something is going with the Uchiha clan." Minato was the one who inquired this time. "What do you mean?" "Well, I went for a walk this morning and when I went past the Uchiha compound they all seemed to be kinda running around and tense. I went to ask Gigi about it and the elders were in there when I kicked the door open. That Danzo guy is creepy," Naruto said with a shiver. "Anyway, apparently they were talking about the Uchiha because when I asked if they were, Gigi's face got kind of hard. When I asked if something was going on he told me there was, but he wouldn't tell me about it because I don't need to know. Then he told me to stay from them for a while." At that, Minato became very reflective. "I know this is different than what Sandaime-sama said, but keep your eyes on anything to do with the Uchiha. If you see anything going on, tell us as quickly as possible." Minato took a breath. Yes, it could be important. Other than that, what did Sarutobi-sama say about Danzo? Naruto replied, "He said to be very careful of him." "Good, you should be. He has probably been trying to get you under his wing so he can turn you into a weapon." "A weapon? Why would I be a weapon? That man thinks all shinobi should be emotionless tools that will do whatever they are ordered to do, even if it will cost them their lives, with no hesitation. He runs a division of Anbu that is loyal only to him, not the village, called Root. Both I and Sandaime-sama ordered him to disband it, but I don't think he ever did. You must never even hint you know about them, but you will know them by the fact that they wear blank white masks with the symbol for Root on the forehead. He probably wants you for the power of the Kyuubi. I actually saw one of them when I was still in the orphanage. There was one hiding behind an illusion that I saw through when I first learned about my eyes. He has been trying to get me for that long. I'll have to be very wary of him. I'm no one's weapon," Naruto said with conviction. Kushina interrupted, saying, "Good, now enough serious talk, back to training." The training area of Naruto. The following day, Naruto made the decision to call upon Gamakichi, just as he used to do before beginning his training. Gamakichi uttered, "Yo," as soon as the smoke that indicated his summoning vanished. Gamakichi was roughly the size of a regular toad when they first met, but he had grown significantly since then. Currently, he is roughly the size of a pug. "Hey Kichi, I've been really busy with the Ninja Academy lately. I would have called you sooner, but I missed you." "Don't worry," Gamakichi remarked, "I do have some bad news for you, but it happens." "Unfavorable news? Actually it is both good and bad to tell the truth." "How is that situation?" "Well, you can't call me in the same manner that you have up to this point. Since I haven't seen you since your 7th birthday, we made an exception even though you shouldn't have been able to." "You mean that I can't call upon you any longer?" Naruto burst forth. "I stated that you couldn't call upon me in the same manner, not that you couldn't call upon me. My dad waived the chakra cost for you until you were 6 years old so you could summon me and have a friend, and he allowed him to take some blood to make the summoning seal on your arm when your dad made you sign the contract. He chose to extend it to 7 years, but in order to get blood to smear over the tattoo from the seal, you now need to channel chakra through your hand each time you summon. Normally, you would have to create a lot of hand seals, but according to Pops, the tattoo was intended to take the place of the seals. The bad news is that you cannot summon without using chakra. The good news is that other toads can also be called upon. You must focus on me while you channel your chakra if you want to get me." "That is awesome, thanks Kichi. I always wanted to meet the other toads you described, now I can." "Oh yeah, Pops said to summon him as soon as you are able to and have a place to do it." Naruto said, "Okay Kichi, thanks for telling me about this." "No issue, I'll dispel. Try calling me back again." Before vanishing, Naruto said to Gamakichi, "Okay, see you in a few minutes." Start of the semester 2 months later. He'd been learning how to mistreat Kage Bunshin for the last 2 months. He used to make 25 Kage Bunshin when he first started his days, which was the most he could do for different chakra control exercises at the time. While the rest would alternate between the various exercises, a third of them began by honing their skills at waterfall climbing, and a further third focused on the first chakra control exercise that his father had taught him. While kunai balancing with an increasing number of rocks floating above their hands, some people would be walking on the water, while others would combine kunai balancing with leaf concentration or any other combination they could manage. His father had given him an exercise where he had to spin his chakra inside a water balloon fast enough for it to burst. That wasn't working for him or any of his clones yet. In fact, it was difficult to even get his chakra to curve. He was exercising physically with the resistance seal engaged while the clones worked on that. It was difficult, extremely difficult. In order to get used to it, he had to maintain a constant flow of chakra and gradually reduce the amount. Even though it was challenging, he could see an increase in his speed on the days he trained without it. In addition, he called upon Gamakichi virtually every day to present any additional toads he might happen to call forth. Meeting the toads at last, which Gamakichi had always told him about, was enjoyable. He began learning Kenjutsu in the Mindscape and worked on Genjutsu with his mother, while he created a Kage Bunshin to continue studying Fuinjutsu with his father. His father even taught him the 2 academy jutsus that he was unaware of, Bunshin Clone and Kawari Meat Replacement. That brought him to this moment, the start of the school year. He was seated close to the window on the right side of the 3rd row. Not even the teacher had arrived yet, so he was the first to arrive because he wanted to see everyone as they arrived. Shikamaru and Choji were surprisingly the first to arrive. They were being dragged by a girl with blue eyes and hair that was so light blonde that it was almost white. After spotting Naruto, Shikamaru pulled himself up to the 3rd row and sat down next to his friend, Choji sitting next to him. In contrast, the girl took a seat in the 2nd row on the left. Naruto pivoted to face Shikamaru. "Who is that girl?" With his head resting on the table, Shikamaru spoke, seemingly losing the will to speak. "That troublesome girl is Yamanaka Ino." Ino screamed, "What did you say, you lazy boy?" Shikamaru raised his head and uttered the word, troublesome, before lowering it again. Until Choji gave him a chip, Naruto laughed at his slothful friend's antics. Naruto politely said, "Thanks, Choji," understanding the significance of his rotund friend's words. The boy who came in next was scruffy and had red clan marks on his cheeks that resembled fangs, so even though he didn't have a partner yet, he had to be an Inuzuka. Then a boy appeared, wearing a pair of small, round-lensed sunglasses and a very big coat with a hood that nearly covered his whole face. Based on his attire, Naruto surmised that he was most likely an Aburame. After a few unknown children trailed the Aburame, Hinata entered and took the seat directly behind him. He was proven wrong when he moved his chair back to be right next to her, even though it didn't seem like she had changed all that much. "Hey Hinata-chan, it's been a while, I haven't seen you recently. How have you been doing?" Still stuttering as much as ever, Hinata said, "G good morning and Naruto-kun. I've been G good. How about why you?" And continued, still stuttering, I thought you might be over that by now. Are you stammering? But someone I admire once told me that a shinobi values deception greatly," Hinata concluded in a calm, stutter-free voice. Naruto responded, "Ha ha ha ha, I'm glad a little advice I passed on helped you," realizing that she had been using a mask or shield to cover up something that had previously caused her problems. It must also drive them insane, given the number of lip readers in her clan. Following that, Naruto retreated to his desk and observed the two educators entering. The two were dressed in chunin flak jackets. One had shoulder-length silver hair covered by a bandana that replaced a Hittite, and the other had brown hair up in a manner similar to Shikamaru's but longer so it hung down more like a ponytail than a pineapple. Sasuke entered after a few more strangers, blocking Naruto's path by taking a seat in the back row on the opposite side. At last, Sakura entered and took a seat beside Ino. The teacher with the brown hair said, "Good morning, class," but no one paid attention. His head suddenly grew 10 times larger than usual, and he yelled, "Sit down and shut up you brats." Complete quiet. Much better. Welcome to your first year at the Ninja Academy. Since you are here you have decided to become protectors of Konohagakure no Sato, so do your best to become everything you can be. I will be your instructor for the next 5 years until you become genin. My name is Yumino Iruka and my assistant is Mizuki. Now I'll start roll call. Aburame Shino. Present, was the soft voice of the boy from Aburame. Akamichi Choji. In between mouthfuls, Choji said, "Munch, here, munch." Daiki Shinji. This boy was not particularly remarkable. Fumio Hikari. Another person Naruto didn't know said, "I'm here." Haruno Sakura. Sakura called excitedly, "Right here." Hyuga Hinata. P present. Hinata puts back on her bashful mask. Inuzuka Kiba. Kiba said, "I'm right here, sensei," in a tone that suggested he felt he should be the center of attention. Nara Shikamaru. Shikamaru simply raised his hand to indicate his presence without even looking up. Subsequently, Naruto lost consciousness for a minute until he heard a different, well-known name. Uchiha Sasuke. HN. Naruto couldn't resist saying, "Hey, haven't I told you that one syllable, HN, doesn't tell anyone anything? Speak up." Sasuke's only response was to, "Be quiet." Uzumaki Naruto. "Oh yeah, I'm here," Naruto exclaimed, strutting to his full orange glory. He could see the scowl on Mizuki's face and the slightly understanding look on Iruka's while he was acting foolish, telling him that although Mizuki hated him and couldn't be trusted, he might grow to like Iruka-sensei. Yamanaka Ino. Naruto thought, "She is a Yamanaka. I wonder if their parents are trying to reconstruct the Ino Shika Cho team that Two-san told me about," as the girl who dragged Shikamaru and Choji in said, "Here sensei." Iruka-sensei said, "Now class we are going to start by discussing the founding of Konoha." As expected, Naruto found that Iruka-sensei was a good teacher despite being a little dull to listen to. Like most of the other academy instructors, Mizuki was a different story. At last, Naruto decided it was time for another practical joke. He chose to target Iruka-sensei and the other teachers because he didn't like any of them. He discovered after giving it some thought that he also had the ideal seal for it. One day, after class, he went to the instructor's lounge entrance and used a seal his mother had taught him to make a trap field. He dubbed it the color shift seal of ignorance. For 3 days, everything about the person who was affected by it changed at random: their skin tone, hair color, and clothing color. The best part was that everyone else saw nothing different about those who were affected, even though those who weren't could see nothing different about themselves or anyone else who was. He finished his trap and made his way back to class. "Naruto, where were you?" exclaimed Iruka. Naruto apologized to Sensei. "I got lost," and he had a sly smile on his face as he linked his hands behind his head. "What kind of lame excuse is that? Hee, guess you saw through it, Sensei." Iruka hung his head and gestured to Naruto's seat, saying, "Whatever, just sit down, Naruto." "All right, Sensei," Naruto said, placing his finger on Iruka's as he went by and setting up a counter seal to protect Iruka from harm when he entered the instructor's lounge. "Keep an eye on Mizuki-sensei throughout the day," he said, walking past Choji and Shikamaru to his seat. Then, as he sat down, he repeated it to Hinata. Soon the teachers left the room and the students were free to eat lunch. After finishing their lunches, everyone returned to their seats just in time to see Mizuki-sensei again. All eyes were fixed on the assistant instructor as the class fell silent. His complexion was a sickly green, his hair had turned nearly neon purple, his clothes were a stark white, and his flak jacket was an obnoxious orange that overshadowed the rest of his outfit. All of a sudden, there was laughter in the class, and everyone was laughing. Iruka-sensei entered the room, ignoring Mizuki because there was simply too much noise, and looked at the students as she called for quiet. When that failed, he employed the big head jutsu, which caused the class to eventually come to order. When Iruka turned to face Mizuki, he burst out laughing just as hard as his students did. The students quickly followed their teacher's lead and began laughing once more. "What happened, Mizuki? Ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha." Before long, Iruka-sensei had to call off the class for the day because, just when it appeared that the students might calm down, something would happen to trigger them once more. At one point, an additional teacher even stopped by to ask Iruka if she knew what was wrong. When classes resumed the following 2 days, the same thing happened, and they were forced to cancel school for 3 days. The instructors' ignorance of the specific events was the funniest part. After 3 months, the day had gone well. Since it was Sunday, Naruto trained all day. With 37 clones at this point, the majority of them were working on the subsequent phases of the elemental transformation of wind, chopping a rock, water, making water float in the form of a globe, and earth, using chakra to grind a leaf to dust. He heard clanging repeatedly and decided to walk along the river on his way home. Glancing around, he saw 2 blurs that were racing against each other on the road across the river, but he couldn't quite make them out. In an attempt to understand what was happening, he directed more chakra into his ears and eyes. And he arrived just in time. When the 2 blurs stopped, Itachi and another Uchiha were visible, each brandishing a short, straight sword at the other. The other Uchiha questioned, "Itachi, what do you think you are doing? Are you betraying the Uchiha?" Itachi answered in a monotone, "No Shisui, the question is what are you doing?" "I am just doing my job." In a mocking tone, Shisui questioned, "Picking the village over your own family are you, oh great Anbu captain?" With a sense of finality, Itachi declared, "I can't allow the civil war that a coup d'etat would cause. If I have to kill you to stop it, so be it." Turned into a blur that was traveling more quickly than Naruto or, it seems, Shisui could keep up with, as the next instant he fell to the ground unconscious and Itachi rolled him into the river. Shisui floated down the river long enough for him to drown, and then Itachi fell as well, with his hand over his eyes. Naruto heard Itachi speak before he could slip out of there. "You can come out now, Naruto-kun." If he was an Anbu captain as Shisui claimed, he would be aware that he was captured and that he had no chance of escaping Itachi. He emerged from the trees and crossed the river by walking on the water until he was standing directly in front of Itachi. "Hello, Itachi-ni, how are you doing tonight? Could you tell me why your eyes have the appearance of having 3 Fuma shuriken blades in them?" "Mangekyo kaleidoscope," Itachi uttered, brow furrowed, then peered more closely at Naruto. "So, Naruto-kun, how much are you hiding?" Naruto said, almost everything, not seeing the need to conceal anything. I see. I was even duped by you. I was expected to. When did you become aware of me? Itachi remarked, just before Shisui and I started talking. He repressed his nausea as he stared at the lifeless body on the ground and said, so that's why the Uchiha clan has been so nervous and tense lately. Yes, Naruto-kun, what are you going to do about it? Itachi tensed and asked. I don't plan on doing anything, Naruto said, channeling more chakra into his eyes to make them glow slightly as he noticed Itachi getting tense. At the same time, he wished he could deactivate his resistance seal, which was currently set on level 2. He gestured to the corpse floating down the river and said, you are loyal to Gigi or that? Given that, may I request a favor from you? Naruto carefully answered, you can ask, but I can't give any guarantees until I hear what it is. Will you kindly take care of my brother after this? Itachi said, I don't think I will be able to myself, sounding so dejected that his typically monotone voice revealed it. That is something I can do for you, Itachi-ni-san. I'm grateful, Naruto-kun. It's time for you to leave. I need to take care of this or I won't live long enough. He ran back to his apartment as soon as he left Itachi and began to meditate, having discovered recently that if he meditated deeply enough, he could enter the Mindscape in an emergency. When he reached the Mindscape's entrance, he ran home and found his parents seated at the kitchen table. Before they could react, he began to speak, saying, I know why the Uchiha are acting so strange. They have a coup planned. What? Minato burst into flames. How did you discover that? Kushina inquired nearly simultaneously. I heard banging on my way home, so I went to investigate. Itachi was fighting another Uchiha, and they were talking about how he was an Anbu captain who loved the village more than his clan. Itachi claimed that they were only attempting to prevent the Uchiha from taking over because that would start a civil war. Then he called out to me, asking me to swear that I would do my best to look after Sasuke, to which Naruto replied. That would definitely explain why the Uchiha clan were so on edge, Minato thought. Kushina yelled, oh no, Miko-chan. You mean the mother of Itachi and Sasuke? Yes, it did worry me that she might die. Itachi seemed to be preparing to take action to stop the coup, but I'm concerned that Miko-chan might suffer harm in the process. I hope we could leave this place now. So, why aren't we able to? Naruto inquired. Because we don't know when it is going to happen and we can't keep her out of the way for too long. Well. How about if I went hang out in Gigi's office and assisted him with his paperwork once more? I could spend all day there and pretend to snooze on his couch. He would be the one to know when Itachi would perform if anyone could. That might actually work, Minato thought to herself. But what happens next? Kushina inquired, what do we do when we know? Naruto said, we could lure her out of the Uchiha compound. But she would probably just go back afterward. Could I make her unconscious with a seal? That actually might work, said Minato. Especially since you can use the Uzumaki sealing method since you can use it through your feet. But how could I get her out of the compound owned by Uchiha? Naruto inquired. A letter from me, Kushina interrupted abruptly. You bring a letter to Uchiha Mikoto inside the compound and tell her you happened to find it with a locked box when you went through a training area that appeared to be used for shinobi technique testing. I'll personalize the letter with information that only I would know, and I'll ask her to give my son the box containing the letter. If you did that, she would undoubtedly follow you to the location where you found the letter. Once you reach a remote location, you can use the seal to make her unconscious for a few days, at which point you can hide her until the whole thing is resolved. That could actually work, and I could use the genjutsu seal you taught me to conceal her right there, giving the impression that nothing unusual is inside. Minato interrupted their plot, saying, you two are forgetting something. You are here, Kushina. How would she get a letter from you? That put an end to them for a short while, until Naruto broke the ice. The sealing jutsu. When I first started practicing it I wasn't actually allowed to make seals, so I would just make words and paragraphs with it. I bet if I tried hard enough I could mimic Ka-chan's writing with it and transcribe her letter on paper. Minato pondered once more. That might actually work, but no one must know it is you delivering the letter. I'll just use my henge to become a random kid. It's not like they would be able to see through it, even with the Sharingan, replied Naruto. Okay, that might actually work. Thanks for telling us about this, Naru-chan, but how did you get here so quickly? You couldn't have fallen asleep if you were in such a hurry to find us. Kushina responded. With a triumphant smirk on his face, Naruto declared, I'm actually meditating right now. Ah, Minato uttered, you better go back then. You still need to get sleep tonight if you want to be ready to do anything tomorrow. So go back out and do whatever you need to get ready for bed, then come back and work on that letter with your Ka-chan. Naruto uttered, okay too, San, before focusing on his meditation in the outside world. Thus, Naruto spent 2 days with the Hokage, only departing to get food and use the restroom after creating the letter, which was a near-exact replica of the one his mother had written in the Mindscape. He explained to the elderly man that he would assist with the paperwork if he learned more about being Hokage, and since he detested paperwork, he never asked why. So that he would know when to pretend to be asleep, he had 2 shadow clones that were changed into flies and were keeping an eye out for Itachi. On the second day, Itachi eventually arrived to see the Hokage at 2 p.m. When Naruto arrived at Hiruzen's office, he had been asleep for a few minutes. When Itachi entered the office and saw Naruto, he pointed at Naruto and made a gesture to draw Hiruzen's attention. Hiruzen simply shook his head and said, report, under his breath as he released the security seals. Itachi remarked in a low, matched voice, it will be taken care of tonight, Hokage-sama. With an even older appearance, the Hokage said, I see. As much as I hate it, do what you must. Itachi nodded, yes, sir, and walked away. Naruto kept acting like he was sleeping, then got up and gave a small yawn. I'm tired. I'll see you later, Gigi. Goodbye, Naruto. I will see you next time you come to visit me. As planned, Naruto disguising himself as an ordinary citizen, he carried Kushina's letter into the Uchiha compound without raising any red flags. He asked where to find Uchiha Mikoto because he didn't know where to go and was given the correct answer. Sasuke left the house as soon as he got there, shouting over his shoulder. I'm going to go train Ka-san, I'll be home later. Acting naive, Naruto approached Sasuke. Hey, do you know where I can find Uchiha Mikoto? Sasuke asked, what do you want with my Ka-san? Holding up the letter to Sasuke's mother, Naruto remarked, I found this earlier. All right, he said, turning back to face the door, opening it, and shouting inside. Ka-san, someone's here with a letter for you. Shortly after Sasuke left, a stunning woman left as well. She wore a sleeveless tan dress underneath a long-sleeved black shirt, and her black hair hung past her shoulders. Her eyes were black. Naruto asked, are you Uchiha Mikoto? Yes, I am. Who are you? I'm Noboru Taiki. I found this as I was taking a shortcut through one of the training grounds that looked like someone had used it to test a new shinobi technique or something. There was some kind of locked box that was with it, but I couldn't open it or lift it, so I settled for bringing this, Naruto said as he handed the letter to Mikoto. Of course, he had smudged it himself. Mikoto said, thank you, and started to read the letter. Naruto started to slowly back away as soon as he noticed that she was reading the letter. Mikoto yelled, wait, Taiki-san, and Naruto turned to face her. Could you take me to where you found this? I suppose so, Naruto replied, attempting to sound uninterested. It was this way. Mikoto trailed behind him, hurrying to follow the bait he was dangling in front of her. Upon arriving at Training Ground 23, which was a comparatively open training area visible from the main road, he employed the Uzumaki sealing technique, channeling chakra through his feet to generate a seal that would incapacitate Mikoto for 30 hours. I hope that would be sufficient time for everything to conclude. While Mikoto was unconscious, Naruto created a second seal, a genjutsu seal that would last for 24 hours and allow people to see the training ground normally but not Mikoto. If things hadn't cooled down by then, he would come reapply the seals, but he probably wouldn't have to worry too much. The office of Hokage. The dog-masked Anbu said, Hokage-sama. Sasuke is traumatized and all of the Uchiha are dead, with the exception of Sasuke. I understand, the Hokage said, his expression growing older by the second. Itachi, why did you do this? You were meant to spare everyone who wasn't a part of the coup. Why didn't you spare the kids at least? Sir, we have evidence that suggests there may have been a second person present to assist, but Uchiha Itachi is unquestionably the main culprit. Oddly enough, the bodies of Uchiha Shisui and a few others have vanished, but the quantity of blood found where they once were indicates that they are unquestionably dead. The fact that the missing bodies are those of people who had active Sharingan is concerning. The professor remarked, that is quite concerning. Could that second person have been in charge of every person Itachi intended to leave alive? Itachi tortured his brother with a very strong genjutsu, but that is really odd. Inu expressed suspicion at the turn of events, saying, Itachi used a lot of chakra to torture his brother after using only a sword to kill the Uchiha clan members throughout the rest of his attack. A cat-masked Anbu with long purple hair trailing down her back barged in just as the dog-masked Anbu was about to continue, saying, Hokage-sama, something has come up. We recently discovered Uchiha Mikoto. Where did her corpse turn up? As Hiruzen received more unfavorable news, he resigned. Mister, we discovered her unconscious on the edge of Training Ground 23, and she is still alive. She just appeared there, according to the person who reported her, and nobody else was there. Although she is currently unconscious, she should wake up soon. I have heard better news all day than that. Finally allowing himself to settle back into his chair and unwind a little, the old Hokage remarked, at least there's a little gold lining this bag of shit. Please go back and guard her, make sure nothing happens to her. When she awakens, bring her here, I want to know what happened to her.
So this was it for today. I will meet you in the next part. Till then, we weeb offline.